Welcome everybody once again to the shit list. Greetings, everybody. I know it's a surprise to everybody that we had to change topics at the last minute for those who may remember the announcement, but George is not feeling too well, but hopefully he gets better soon. And thank you, Sadie, for playing with your burger while I'm doing my intro. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the program. We got 6 with us tonight. Welcome back to the shit list. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing very well. This is going to be such a fun topic. I'm really looking forward to these.
Yeah, I think this
takes me back.
Indeed. And then we also have with us Scribbles. How you doing, Scribelite?
Doing good. Before we really begin, I really need everybody in the chat to give Tom all the applause, virtual or otherwise, in the world, because with a limited amount of time to try to reconfigure after a scheduling conflict, he put this thing together, and we're here. We're going to have fun, and he put a lot of effort into it. So thank you, Tom.
I do my best. Thank you. We also have with us Price. How you doing?
Good, and I second what Scribe just said, that Tom was really working overtime here. And I think it's cool that we're doing this. I actually am even a bit more excited that we're doing this subject because it's one that really speaks to me. So I'm actually really excited about this one.
I think this is going to speak to just about everybody, especially the kid and everybody. But yeah, no, the bigger problem wasn't even so much putting things together like normal. It was the programs and stuff that I use to normally do this stuff were not working with me tonight. I don't know if it was the internet, my computer, what the deal was. Everything was like working against me. So I apologize when we get to the actual list. It's going to be a bit wonky, but we'll work with it as we get through it. But thank you again. We also have with us coming in from Canada, which is going to add a weird wrinkle to this because through the conversation, it's pretty obvious Canada doesn't have CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox. You guys have your own stuff up there. So stuff that we had during syndicated afternoon shows would sometimes wind up Saturday morning cartoons for you and vice versa. So, and you even had, I think, 1 or 2 on there that I'd never even heard of, which were probably Canadian shows to begin with. But yeah, and we'll differentiate basically the difference between Saturday morning cartoons and afternoon cartoons, or syndicated cartoons, or after school, whatever you want to call them, was the syndicated ones were obviously shown in the afternoon. The Saturday morning ones were shown on the network, and the syndicated ones could be shown on any channel. They were generally produced independently, as opposed to the Saturday morning ones were produced by ABC, NBC, CBS, or bought by them, whatever you want to say. They're a little bit more prestigious. They got a little bit more money behind them, but they also were a little bit more kid-friendly, let's say. But CC,
so
you got to add a little bit more to the mix, yeah.
No Ren and Stimpy on this one. We had Sunday morning cartoons as well. I don't know if you had that.
Not really.
I mean, there's just so many shows, so I know we're going to leave some off tonight that you might want to see, but you're going to see a lot of great shows tonight, one way or the other. And we're definitely going to have to do another one of these.
The only thing on Sunday mornings, unless you were lucky to find like a Batman, the actual Adam West show or something like that, it was usually like church shows and farm reports before noon.
I used to hate Sundays because there was nothing on TV, but there was always a Sunday afternoon TV movie, and that was where I saw would be movies, all the old Godzilla movies. So sometimes it was an awesome movie, and sometimes I don't even remember what the sucky ones were, but I just always kind of had this feeling about Sunday.
Yeah, it was kind of the same, other than football season around here, and then like you'd have to choose between a couple channels that would show movies. But I always loved Fox 47 out of Madison because they would have the best Sunday afternoon movies. They would always have stuff like that you shouldn't be showing on a Sunday afternoon. like Critters and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and shit like that. It's like, yes, Critters is on again. And they would show like marathons once in a while. They'd show like 3-4 movies in a row, like, Critters 1, 2, and 3 or whatever, just throwing it out there. But anyway, we got a super chat already from Kalekioki. How you doing? Sends in $5. Says, come on, Tom. Got to do this by decade. I'm a 2000s kid. Grew up with Sonic X, TMNT 2003, Dragon Ball Z Kai, Kirby Right Back, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, I think Dragon Ball Z come up as one where like, was that a Saturday morning or was that after school?
For me,
that was beyond my time.
It was definitely weekdays. I had to tape it because I wasn't home from school in time, but it was like Monday to Friday.
See, so
we'll
see what comes up here.
Or even
you're not wrong, and we might.
So many.
Yeah, that's the thing is, as you'll see by our choices, it kind of emulates the era we kind of grew up in. But we may have to revisit this one in different ways. I agree with that. That's a good idea. So let's break out the list. Why don't we? Thank you again, Kalekioki, for that. I got my nice little 80s den here going on. Kind of set the mood, I guess, if you think. So let's get right.
Cool.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I grew up in a house with that kind of paneling. Yep.
So number 5, I should say, on 6's list is Ruby Roo.
Yeah. I love Scooby-Doo. Most of it, I think, was because he was a dog, and I wanted a dog from, the moment I was born. I used to ask my parents for a dog. Anytime we'd be driving and we'd see a dog, I'd ask for a dog. And so Scooby-Doo was kind of like my Saturday morning dog. I never understood the Scooby snacks. I was probably an adult before I finally was like, oh, that's what that means. Scrappy-Doo, he was just adorable. I wanted to stuff Scrappy-Doo so badly. I used to think that Daphne, I wanted to grow up and look like Daphne, and I wanted to date Fred, and Thelma was just but Shaggy, I wanted him for an older brother, and just when they'd pull off the mask and it would reveal that it was somebody that you should have known all along, I was like, oh, that's who did it.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
That's right. Yeah, I would always be amazed, like, oh my gosh, that's who was stealing the whatever. I don't even remember any of the plots, but yeah, good stuff. The what was the name of the Mystery Machine?
Yep,
that was the name of the
they were Mystery Inc. and it was the Mystery Machine. Yep.
The I don't know, what do you call that van? I know what I call it.
Volkswagen van?
No, it was, there's like a slang term for it, but I don't
RV.
Oh, the Shaggin' Wagon.
Yeah, but like when somebody
I got one of those.
Somebody pulls over and offers you candy and you don't get in the van.
One of those.
Yeah.
Party van?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and I don't even think I've ever seen the live action.
Well, the first one was okay. After that, I can't speak to them. The thing about Scooby-Doo that's ironic is I still think to this day, Scooby-Doo has been in one form or another had some form of cartoon on. Because I mean, you started out with Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Which was the original cartoon. Then you had the Scooby-Doo movies, which I think were showing about the time I was born. Or at least they were still running them in reruns because we'd have that. And then you had the second, because there was the other one too. There was Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And What's New Scooby-Doo? It was later, way later. But what was the other one that was like Scooby-Doo? No,
it was 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
There was that one too. There was a bunch of them. See, that's the thing is they kept just reinvigorating the show, and it was all new, always new stuff. And then eventually even got to like Scooby-Doo Kids and all that shit in the late 80s and stuff. They kind of got desperate there, but there was always some form of Scooby-Doo on, I remember as a kid. And I mean, you had the movies where they meet the Globetrotters or the Addams Family or Batman and all those fun ones too. Great. Yeah.
I think wasn't Laurel and Hardy one of them or something? I forget, something like that.
The pup named Scooby-Doo. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Oh, right.
Yes. And then I'm trying to think. Because they had Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And then they had another one. where it had a different theme song, but it was still basically in the same vein as Scooby-Doo. Where are you?
See, it was always just Scooby-Doo to me. I don't have.
Well, the one starts with the bats, and then the other one has like a really Art Deco 80s kind of look to it. I'm trying to remember what that one was called, but they consider that, I think, like the 7th or 8th season or whatever it was. I can't remember now, but it's in my collection of Scooby ones. But
of course it is.
Yeah. Anyway, I loved Scooby-Doo too. It's a mainstay. It was always there. It was kind of, just one of those cartoons that never went away, but always had some new version of it on. Was it the all new Scooby-Doo? Was it just called that? Because it had like the intro with all the guys chasing him with the pink background on the flat, like Art Deco kind of look to it. Or was it just called the Scooby-Doo Show? That might have been it too. Because that was after Scrappy was there, but they took Scrappy out.
Thank goodness.
I remember that. And that was in between that and a pup named Scooby-Doo, or between the Scooby-Doo movies and a pup named Scooby-Doo, I think it was. Remember right. But yeah, I'd have to remember the exact order of them all, but there's a bunch of them. But anyway, good pick, 6. Anyway. Let's see here. We got next up, I believe it is, oops, wrote the wrong way. We got Price with Muppet Babies, a show you can't get anymore.
Yeah, it seemed to have disappeared, but as a kid, I always woke up in the morning on Saturday and watched it.
When your room looks kind of weird and you wish that you weren't there.
That was a perfect impression, actually.
Did you know that famously, like Howie Mandel, Dave Coulier, and I can't remember who else did voices for that show. There's a couple other ones. But yeah, like Howie Mandel did like Animal and stuff like that, yeah.
They did a good job. The voices on that show were good, from what I remember.
Oh yeah, they did a pretty good job of facsimiles. I think the only one who was I'm trying to remember if Gonzo, I think that might have been Dave Goelz who came. He was the only one, I think, might have done both regular and baby Gonzo, but I could be wrong.
My favorite episode was the one where they were all dressed up as the Star Wars characters, and somehow
I think that's everybody's favorite episode.
Yeah, somehow they got the rights to use Star Wars in there.
At that time, Jim Henson and George Lucas were working together. Remember?
Sure, yeah. But the part where they like knock over all the stormtroopers like bowling pins. That was.
But
great.
Anyway, Price, yeah, go ahead with Muppet Babies. Sorry, guy, we're talking.
Yeah, no, it was just I like the Muppets. So when there was the Muppet Babies, I thought it was such an interesting twist, and I always liked how that you never saw the face of their nanny, whatever they called her. I don't remember now. Is that what they called her?
Yep, it was Nanny, played by Barbara Billingsley. Yep.
Right, and you only saw her socks or something. You never saw her face, and I don't know why it somehow it worked for me. As somebody that had already liked the Muppets, this idea, I really enjoyed it as a kid. I think that I may have even liked it at some point. I started liking it more than the regular Muppets, as odd as that sounds.
Well, the babies are always cuter, so.
Right. They really sold me with the baby ones.
Now, when was the Muppets on? Was that Sunday night show? Or Saturday?
I think it was Friday nights, actually.
Friday night? Okay.
Yeah.
And then
it was a big deal at the time.
Yeah. Well, Muppet Babies, if I remember right, they did the baby Muppets in Muppets Take Manhattan, and that's where it sprouted from.
Yeah.
And then they added a new girl Muppet to the mix, and that would be Scooter's sister, Skeeter.
Yes.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. No, but they had some great episodes, and it's sad that it's kind of hard to get your hands on because Disney can't sort out the rights, but yeah.
Was it just me, or did Rugrats feel like a ripoff on some Muppet Babies elements?
On some level.
Yeah.
Why did Muppet Babies disappear, though? I mean, you're right. I feel like at some point I never saw it again. It was something that I remember as a kid really liking, but over the years it's not as accessible. But what's the dispute? Why can't they just put it on somewhere?
Now, I don't know the whole story because I'd have to go back and research it all, but from my memory, it was something to do with the guy who was one of the designers or whatever on the show, or creators on the show, owns certain rights to it, and Jim Henson owns certain rights to it, and Disney didn't sort out all the ins and outs, so it's like kind of stuck in this limbo, and I have no idea. I think there's a couple YouTube videos about it out there, but you can get like bootlegs and stuff like that.
I see.
Oh, I didn't know that he was only in the first season, but that kind of makes sense because he was getting bigger around that time too. So yeah, but yeah, it has something to do with the rights. That's all I know.
Oh well.
But, yeah, it's too bad. But all right, let's move on to the next pick. Unless you had more to say about Muppet Babies.
No, I'm good.
All right. Then we got the Getalong Gang from Scribbles. This is one of my earliest memories of Saturday. I can even remember the song.
Yeah, when you asked for a list of cartoons, I did absolutely no research to remind myself of this. I'm going to give you exactly my impressions from when I was 5 years old and why this stuck in my mind. First off,
good comedy cartoon.
Sure, that's what I was thinking. No, but when I was 5 years old,
but yeah, sorry.
When I was 5 years old and I saw this, I thought their clubhouse is in a caboose. That is so cool. And and they went to this place that was like Mr. Huffnagel's soda shop or something. And I had a neighbor or a family in my neighborhood whose last name was Huffnagel. And so when I was 5 years old, I thought that they were related. And so I thought it was so cool that I'm watching like, oh, the Huffnagels are on a cartoon show. And I just remember just a very positive stories and characters. They were all friends, and they all helped each other out. And I have a very distinct memory of like warmth and just sort of simple stories and friendship, and also a cool clubhouse that was a caboose. That's my 5-year-old memory, and why the Getalong Gang is stuck in my head. That's as much commentary as I can give it.
Extremely sanitized, safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was one of my earlier memories of Saturday mornings.
Yeah, great little animal friends running around. The main guy was a moose.
Montgomery the leader.
Montgomery Moose. Yes, that's what. Yeah, Montgomery Moose.
Getalong Gang.
Yeah. So yeah, but very old. I did look up. I was like, how old was I when I watched this? 1984. Holy cats! That is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Getalong Gang. I don't even know if you can find it in any episodes anywhere, but
they were kind of like Care Bears, but not as cringe.
Yeah, they didn't have superpowers except friendship. Just friendship. Actually, they kind of reminded me of like whenever I think of the Getalong Gang, for some reason, I also think at the same time of the Wuzzles, because they were all like different animals and things and stuff for some reason. But I don't have the Wuzzles on my list. I probably should have put it there, but either way.
Interesting. I barely. I mean, I remember the Wuzzles, but I barely. That was like one of Disney's earlier.
Oh yeah, Wuzzles was great. Like Rhinoki and there's a Bumble Bear.
That was their first foray, I think, into Saturday morning cartoons. That was before the DuckTales Goof Troop stuff.
Yeah, I think that was their answer to Care Bears or Popples or something. Was just like
kind of like a mix between the two. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, just weird multicolored animals that girls loved, but yeah.
Oh, Captain Palsy in the chat, Shirt Tails. Yeah, I almost put Shirt Tails on my list.
That's the other one that was right. I think it was right before or after this one on the same.
Yeah, I almost put that on there, but yeah. Anyway,
Shirt Tails had a lot of merchandise. See, that's the difference between Getalong Gang and Shirt Tails. You couldn't go anywhere without finding those damn Shirt Tail dolls. I think it was Dairy Queen that gave them out. It was either Dairy Queen or one of them, but yeah. It wasn't McDonald's though. But like I remember everybody, like my aunts and stuff, always giving them to me constantly. I'd get a fucking Shirt Tail. It's like,
wow, okay. I don't think I ever saw a Shirt Tail toy, honestly. Maybe it was a regional.
No, there was these. It must have been this thing where they were giving, like, doing it for some like promotion at one of those fast food restaurants. But like one year I wound up with like 3 sets of the goddamn Shirt Tails.
Jesus.
It's like, how many Shirt Tails can you get? Let me see if I can find them here.
I always remember Rainbow. Anybody put Rainbow Bright on their list? Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm just thinking of Rainbow Bright because I could always remember the bad guy's name. Oh, okay. I'll wait. Sorry, I don't want to. Suddenly it came to me. I remember the bad guy's name from Rainbow Bright, and I'm like, I got it. Never mind. Wait.
I guess Hallmark owned them. That's probably why it looks like here.
Oh.
These are the ones that I kept getting all the time. Oh my god.
Stuffed animals you used to get? Oh.
These were huge for some reason when they came out. Like all my aunts and grandmas and shit were giving them to me. Like I said, I had like 4 sets of these guys.
They wanted you to be a girl.
Bogey. Oh, Bogey was so cool.
He was the best one, yeah.
He really was, yeah. But Humphrey Bogart, yeah, it's great. Bogey.
Digger was so gay.
And Rick, I always associated Rick with Ranger Rick.
Yeah, Rick was all right.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, no, the Getalong gang was very similar to that, but you had Montgomery and all the other ones, and yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Not as heavily merchandised.
I barely remember that one. I remember that it existed, but it was something that I didn't watch frequently. And
the Getalong gang, the funny thing was they kind of were like 50s teenagers. Was kind of their...
Yeah, like they went to a malt shop and everything. Yeah.
And they always hung out at the malt shop and that shit. Yep. Yeah, it was like kind of like the Archies almost in a weird way.
Interesting.
Also, back in the day when you woke up at Saturday morning, sometimes you had to make some difficult choices, some difficult decisions.
Yes, true.
Because there's a few channels, they're showing their lineup, and you have to figure out which lineup is for you. Even if you have to start switching channels from one to the other, you know exactly which shows are the ones that you like the best. And some of them.
I'm glad you brought that up.
So some would just fall between the cracks. It could be a decent show, but it's not more decent than the one that I like.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, because especially before VCR, right? Because even then, even before Fox, you still had 3 choices, and you're like, shit, Karate Kid's on the same time as Teen Wolf. What am I going to do? You know,
Karate Kid.
No. That always happened where something would be on at the same time. So you'd hope. The way things work, though, that you get lucky is as long as they didn't cancel them right away, they would usually only do like 1 season, but they would just keep running that 1 season over and over for about 2-3 years. So you could get away with watching, or at least a year or 2 or whatever. So you could get away with watching like one show during the main season, and then during summertime you could flip over to the other show and manage to see all the episodes, basically.
Or sometimes they suddenly made an unexpected shift in their schedule. So it could be that until that moment you couldn't watch a certain show because it had a conflict, but now it didn't have a conflict anymore.
Yeah.
I had 2 older sisters that I had to fight for screen time with. They always won, so.
Oh. Yeah. Well, that can be, let's see, and there's really like 3 decades of Saturday morning cartoons. You think about it, 3.5. I guess you could say 4, because they kind of started like early 60s, late 50s is when television started having children's entertainment. And then Saturday mornings, it was sometime, I think 62 or 63, when they finally put a block aside in the morning for cartoons. A lot of them, when they first started, were like reruns of old cartoons that were like like Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, stuff like that was shown before films. Before they would just put them together in a half-hour chunk. Well, then Hanna-Barbera started producing original cartoons, and actually I'm going to get into that in a video series at some point, hopefully. So but it's not related to all Saturday morning cartoons, but we'll get into that eventually. But that, of course, is where you got like Yogi Bear and Deputy Dog and all those, Hanna-Barbera characters that we know today. Jetsons and stuff eventually came along and all that stuff. But and then all the other companies started getting involved, and we got Mighty Mouse and some other stuff there. I think Mighty Mouse was one of the first ones too. All right, let's keep moving along here. Number 5 on CC's list, and this one, man, this was a toughie for me, because the first season of this show is fucking amazeballs. After that, it goes in some weird directions. In fact, it goes into 2 different story directions.
Yeah,
because there's like 2 different season 5s. I shit you not, or whatever it is, season 6 or 5 or whatever it is. But anyway, so yeah, TMNT 2003 CC, great update of the classic.
Yeah, I mean, I lived kind of on the bridge between the 90s and the 2000s, right? So I've got favorites from both eras. I did watch the original TMNT, and I can see why that one might go ahead on someone's list. But for me, the 2003 show just took everything that was great about the original, and it dug into the source material. It got a little bit more, mature. It was just fantastically well drawn, great voice acting.
It is a little bit more leaning towards the comics, yes.
Yeah. And now it did go off the rails at the end for reasons beyond the control of the people who created it. But I also feel like before it went in that wildly different direction, it did have like an actual closure, right? the original. It's almost like it's two different shows.
There is
the
a
original show
storyline closure. Yeah, when they leave New York, and I think it's pretty good place for the first main storyline.
Yeah, it's not really a cliffhanger, and I appreciate that has a beginning and a middle and an end. I did once they went to the future. I didn't
basically
finish that.
That's it. Yeah, because they leave and then they come back, and then because there is like the two separate seasons where they literally they're like, yeah, this season sucks. So then they revamped it. And
the trick, I guess what the trick is, at least what to my understanding, was they actually created the future season after the final season.
Something like that. Yeah, it was,
right? But they aired it first because of pressure from above or whatever. And then people, obviously viewers like myself, when I was watching, what's going on? Because it just went out of nowhere.
I fell out by then anyway, but yeah.
But Cece, how old are you? I was driving when this thing came out.
He was born in 84, I think. So he's a little younger.
I mean, like, I didn't just stop watching Saturday morning cartoons the day I turned 18. You know, I was watching them well into my 20s.
This is one I watched when I was adult too, actually, I have to admit.
Yeah, I mean, I stuck with Saturday morning until the end of Saturday morning, basically. And this was obviously airing right towards the end of Saturday morning cartoons.
This was on Fox, yep.
But I put it this way, I stopped watching cable television in 2006. So that's when I stopped watching Saturday morning cartoons, because I didn't have a cable subscription after that.
And this is true as well, is no matter where you decide to end it, it had a great ending with Turtles Forever as a TV movie, because that's kind of like Spider-Verse before Spider-Verse. I mean, even though Spider-Man kind of did it too already in their animated series. But anyway. All right, so let's keep moving along here. I think we're on me now, or is it?
We haven't done you yet.
Life with Louie. Does anybody else remember this one?
Yes.
Yes, this was very similar to Bobby's World, but instead it was with Louie Anderson, and it was fucking hilarious. And not only that, if you grew up in the Midwest, it was really relatable. I just love the show, and it's really kind of hard to come by now. I haven't even seen episodes. I'm sure if I did a search, I could find one on YouTube maybe, but they never released any episodes on DVD or anything like that I know of. But I'm glad somebody at least remembers this besides me.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh.
I know Bobby's World. I don't know this as well.
Didn't he walk kind of funny? He used to like kick his feet out.
Well, he was kind of a chubby little kid. Yeah, it was a goofy looking cartoon. The funny part was, though, is he did not only his own voice as a kid, but he did his dad's voice too, which is hilarious. And if anything, watch the Christmas special that started it all. There was a Christmas special that was kind of a pilot episode. It is one of the funniest fucking Christmas specials. I forgot about it when we did the Christmas special. I'm like, oh yeah. But it's one I want to look and see if it's on YouTube again. I remembered how funny it was. It was great. But I'm surprised nobody else remembers it. But then again, I'm not. It did run for a couple years, but it just wasn't nearly as popular as Bobby's World. But it looks like some people in the chat remember it at least. So that's cool. Speaking of the chat, we've got a poll going on. We're going to end the poll here in just a few minutes. Get in there and vote, and then we're going to add some other cereals to the mix. And while we're doing, waiting for you guys to get your final votes in, we got a super chat from Pajori, who sends in $5. Says, one of you has to mention Kid Video. I feel that is a lost classic. I do know the show. You'll have to see if it shows up on anybody's lists. Let's see what else you guys were talking about here. We got SFX14 Sabretooth Raptor, who says TMNT Classics, Garfield, Smurf, Batman, Animated, X-Men, DuckTales, Spider-Man, Real Ghostbusters, Inspector Gadget, many more you can put in there. Well, in the U.S., DuckTales was on in the afternoon. I know that. Batman started in the afternoon, but I believe that when they went to Batman and Robin Adventures, that went to Saturday morning, I believe. And then shows like TMNT and Ghostbusters actually had one on syndication and one on Saturday mornings. Inspector Gadget, I'm not sure if that was during the day. Or Saturdays. I think that one was during the day as well. So I'd have to. Yeah, I was gonna say I think that was syndicated. But yeah, that's kind of the division line we put here for this one.
I mean, otherwise we could have a top 20 each.
Yeah.
Right. In my list, I just went with whatever I was a kid and whatever was on. So there's obviously all these other shows that maybe at some point they put them on there, but for me in my mind, TMNT is generally a afternoon show. I don't remember it on a Saturday.
CBS had it, and it actually had a different intro and a bit better animation and stuff because they had more money for it. But yeah, in the last few seasons, we're only, I believe, CBS. But they even had Toko and Razor show up at one point. We got Nick the Greek here who says it's a great topic for a list. Well, thank you, Nick, considering we came up at the last minute.
Yeah, Todd pulled it out of his butt at the final
0 hour. Daryl Brewer is in the house, and he says, I didn't see Underdog, Rocky and Bullwinkle, George of the Jungle, Thundercats, Silverhawks, or Transformers in that intro. Shame. Yes, that's right. Those were early Saturday morning ones. And in fact, weren't those I think those were the Canadian company that put those together, if I'm not mistaken. They're real cheap animation at least on the first few. Thundercats, on the other hand, that was Rankin and Bass, and that was pretty badass animation. I think that was afternoons.
Yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle was like caveman drawings.
Basically a step above South Park. Watch me while I put a rabbit out of my hat and presto. Yeah, I love so that was always on. Like they had that and repeat at nausea when I was a kid on Saturday mornings. It just never stopped. And then we got Andre Enrico who says, for me, top 5 are Batman animated series, Adventures of Galaxy Rangers, Dinosaurs, Spiral Zone, and Silverhawks. Pretty sure Silverhawks was during the day, at least where I was. But yeah, we got Nicholas Horton who says Conan Adventurer, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, Pirates of the Dark Water. I remember Pirates of the Dark Water. Yeah. Mighty Max, Thundar the Barbarian. That was before my time, but I have the Blu-ray collection of that one. Danger Mouse. That was a UK
I remember
one.
Danger Mouse.
Yeah.
Danger Mouse was on Nickelodeon because it was a UK show, and somehow they stuck it on there. And I was always ambivalent about it.
Count Duckula.
Yeah, Count Duckula was the other one too. Yeah, Sonic. Yeah, good picks. And then we got John Evan Bear who sends in a Canadian $5. Says, when did the intro to the original TMNT change with the camera going through the sewer? That was when CBS took it over, or at least they had the Saturday morning version going on in tandem with the syndicated version. I believe that would be season 3. I'd have to double check on that though. And then the syndicated versions just retained the original version, and then the CBS version had the darker edge, the reds. It's some refer to it as the red sky era because all the skies in New York are red.
Oh yeah, that's
and they gave the
turtles
a bit.
Insight.
Yeah,
I remember that. Now I have actual context because that show has different eras. It's got like the first 2 seasons and seasons 3, 4, and 5, right? And then season 6 is like another big.
Yeah, and 3 is when. Yeah, see, this 3, 4, and 5, I think we're still technically syndicated, but it would have been in the 3rd year of its existence because then it was running in tandem with. It was kind of like Ghostbusters, very similar to Ghostbusters, where you had basically 2 sets of teams working on 2 different shows, but they're same voice cast, all that kind of stuff. And then the Saturday morning one, if I remember right, ended up picking up like an ongoing narrative, right? Like they had it,
yeah,
as opposed to the syndicated one, which was just singular episodes to continue to go with the. And what's weird is that's one of the rarities to where it was kind of the opposite of Ghostbusters, to where TMNT took a little bit more edgier adult sci-fi tone on the Saturday morning cartoon, where the syndicated ones went a little bit more kid-oriented. Ghostbusters, on the other hand, the syndicated versions that existed were like the first 2 or 3 seasons or whatever. That was the more darker Ghostbusters, to where the Saturday morning cartoon, they really went more kiddie, especially when they went to Slimer and the real Ghostbusters, and Slimer got a whole half hour to himself or whatever it was.
But are you saying that TMNT on Saturdays it's different? So today, if you want to watch the show,
it's different, but it's the same. If you buy the complete box set, it's all in there.
I see.
Yeah, I have that.
You just know the difference because it goes from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Rounder Turtles, to all of a sudden you get like this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Then they keep cutting in scenes from the movie, and they actually made the turtles look a little close, not close, but a little bit closer to the movie and not as rounded, more darker and harder edges.
This is starting to sound familiar. I've seen such a thing before. I think
the thing was, I think the syndicated version was all pretty much done and animated, but they were still running them because they had so many of them that they were still new for us. But then they moved on to the Saturday morning version of it. But in the box set, they have them in the specific order. But yeah. But anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. We've got to end this poll. And it looks like Trix won. Wow. TMNT came in second.
Yummy.
You guys didn't like the choices. I can't believe nobody liked C3POs.
They were just Cheerios, weren't they?
Yes.
But shaped different.
All right. So
like an 8 or something, I think.
Yeah. Cereal.
I think we had one box of those when I was a kid. And then it was like,
Did I put Ghostbusters in the first one? I just forgot.
Ghostbusters.
Cereal.
In the poll?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, Trix, TMNT, Ghostbusters.
All right, and then what else we got here? Captain Crunch, Cookie Crisp. Okay.
Doing it on the fly, folks.
Yeah.
Or nimble, you see. Nimble.
Well, I was trying to find ones that are a little closer to like
I was just
actually made off of cartoons and stuff, but yeah. That's all right. We'll mix them up a little bit.
This Mars Monkey Mac says he or she, pretty sure it's a he. I like Fat Albert and Heathcliff.
Hey, it's Fat Albert.
Fat Albert.
Heathcliff is a ripoff of Garfield, or was Garfield?
Yes and no. Like,
Heathcliff.
There's a difference. Here's where the difference is. Heathcliff is not lazy. Heathcliff will kick the shit out of you. Heathcliff is a rough and tumble, like, alley cat who just happens to live with somebody. Garfield is a lazy ass pussy. And I mean that, and also, like, you know, I love Garfield, but Garfield is all house cat. Like, Heathcliff, on the other hand, that's why the Junkyard Gang, they were afraid of him. So, yeah. So, anyway, I think Heathcliff was syndicated, though, but I'm not sure on that. It may have started.
Oh, my God. I just remembered another one.
But you know who did the voice of Heathcliff? Mel Blanc.
Oh, yes.
For many years, he did. I miss Heathcliff. That was a good one. Heathcliff, no one should tear his neighborhood. John Kohler. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was older than you guys. Battle of the Planets, Space Battleship Yamada, Voltron, G.I. Joe, Underdog, Justice League, Form of Water. Oh, you're talking about Super Friends. Born in 72. Yeah.
The Wonder Twins? Were they the ones who could take form of water? Yep.
Form of water and form of, I think the other one could take flying objects. Remember right?
There was a live action movie in the works a year or two ago, and then
and that got shit canned.
Yeah.
Did they do G.I. Joe in the morning? I wonder in the UK if they showed it in Saturday mornings, but I don't know.
Huh. I remember Underdog.
Underdog. Yeah, that was Underdog was from the same people who did Rocky and Bullwinkle and Peabody and Sherman. Yep. So I think it's Canadian, if I remember right. Yeah, those are a couple of those I recognize, of course, but not all of them. And then, of course, Larry, with $2, lives up to his icon and says Rocky and Bullwinkle has great writing, satire. That's right.
Gee, Rocky, where are Boris and Natasha?
Much better than me. But I can do Boris. I'm going to get the moose and that fucking squirrel. And I'm going to eat it. Are you going to eat moose or squirrel? Both. I'm fucking hungry. It's been 60 years. Anyway, moving on with our actual list. We got 6 coming up next with Schoolhouse Rocky and the Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah, that's where I learned what a bill is. That's where I learned the preamble to the Constitution, which I can still sing to this day. Don't worry, I won't. Learned what a conjunction was. I love and this wasn't really a cartoon.
It was in betweeners.
I'm sorry, what?
They were like in-betweeners. Yeah, they were like little 5-minute things.
More like a commercial and then they had another one where it taught you how to grab a 30-second breakfast. You make a piece of toast and you put a piece of cheese on it and out the door you go. And I just
was it like one to grow on? Was it like One to
One
Grow
to
On?
Grow On was kind of like that. Yeah, there was other ones too in that same vein. Yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't. I mean, it was animated, but it was more like kind of in the.
They had great music.
The more you know vein.
They actually did an album of it years ago too, and yeah, Disney owns these now, and I don't know. They did put out a DVD set of them a while back. I think it had all of them on it. But oh yeah, I remember I'm Just a Bill and Conjunction Junction and quite a few of them as a kid. They were great.
Yeah, I still say no, I can't remember it. I'm so hungry I could eat a wagon wheel. That's a line from one of them. I still to this day say that one. Yeah. But I'm stuck in the past.
Oh, Dr. Coffinail's got the DVD. Cool. Yeah.
Well, that is cool.
Yeah. Anybody else remember?
Way better than school. You guys are too young.
Magic number.
A lot of the stuff that I watched was probably because my sisters were older. So if they watched it, I watched it. Like same with music. I got into like popular music really young because my older sisters and my mom listened to it. So, and then really honestly, once Return of the Jedi came out, that's all I was. I was just all about Star Wars.
Your whole world changed.
My whole world changed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure you guys also remember Schoolhouse Rock. I mean, come on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Glorified public service announcements.
Yeah.
They were fun though. That's a good music.
Look, I grew up in Canada and it was on TV here. And that was like that was in the 90s when I would have seen it. And they still had it. So it's an institution.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right. Moving right along. Teen Wolf coming out today. Teen Wolf. I almost put this one on here. This is, I mean, I think it only had one season and like 8 episodes, and that's it. But it is one of the better
picks.
I know it is Price's. I'm glad it's here.
Okay, well, let him talk about it.
I will. I'm just going to say this.
No, I like what he's saying.
It was one of the closer ones to the actual freaking movie, right? That actually, for the most part, except for one thing, and they added a whole Teen Wolf family to it, didn't they? Like you had grandpa and grandma and a younger sister or some shit. Like it was kind of weird. Outside of that, though, you had every other character from the movie in it.
Right, and I saw the movie, and I liked the show as much as the movie. Even though it didn't have Michael J. Fox's voice, I still thought that they did a good job, and I remember as a kid liking it. It's like you've said, a lot of times you'd have cartoons, and I'd watch the real movie, and then I'd watch the cartoon, and I think, well, this isn't really staying true to what I saw. It's kind of a dumb version of it, or it's dumbed down, or for little children, but this one was still fun. It had the fun of the original movie, even if it made a few changes.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you didn't have the sex innuendos and a few other things, but
yeah,
I mean, the idea of him turning into a teen wolf to solve some issue, I mean, it pretty much writes itself.
I mean, as a young kid, I was more interested in the fact that he turns into a werewolf. I mean, the thing that he liked the ladies was cool in the real one, but as a kid, I didn't mind that they focused more on whatever they focused in the cartoon.
Well, he still had Boof in the cartoon, so he didn't need to be all that. But I mean, the cartoon also, I think, he still had the struggle with still wanting to be Scott and not being known for the wolf and all that kind of stuff. So they carried a lot of that over and whatnot. But it was fun. I remember it being fun, yeah.
I liked it. I can just remember my feeling, and my feeling was that I liked that show.
Yeah. It was good times.
Totally.
Nobody else remembers it?
Well, I remember it. I'd never watched it, I don't think. Or
I don't think I watched it.
Yeah, I can vaguely remember in my mind the animated versions of the characters and the very puberty-breaking voice imitation of Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, I remember it, but it's like when you have to choose your channel.
Exactly.
I just didn't.
Yeah. Remember, everybody in the chat. This is before you could like go back and watch something anytime you wanted to. You had one shot. Right.
Yeah.
You had one moment. Right. You had one opportunity, and if you didn't watch it, it wasn't. The only time as a kid that I thought something else had happened was I forget what it was. I think it was like some TV show where I was watching it and I turned it off. And it's at times back in the olden days, they would occasionally play the same show twice in the day, one in the earlier in the day and then later in the evening. And so for some reason, I just lucked out and I turned the TV on exactly where I left off on that same show. So for a brief time, I thought the TV stopped playing the thing when you turned it off.
I thought the same thing when I was a kid.
Yeah, I know, right?
God, we were dumb.
I mean, well, what freaked me out was the first time I realized, because before I never realized a VCR could record.
Yes.
Until like I was watching, I can't remember which Superman movie was on, but I was pissed because my mom made me go to bed the night before, and then I got home from school the next day or whatever, and she goes, "Well, you want to finish watching Superman?" I said, "What? It's on TV again?" She's like, "Yeah." And she hit play or whatever, and I'm like, I thought she had like just called them up, and she was like fucking with me hardcore. She's like, "Oh yeah, I asked them if they could finish it for you." It took me a bit to realize or figure it all out. It's kind of funny. It was kind of like my dad pulled the same shit on me the first time we had a TV with a remote too.
We had a VCR player, and certainly in the 90s you could buy blank tapes. I mean, so I like that. For me, that was my way of hoarding everything. Right, like I would tape everything, and I had boxes and boxes of tapes. Anytime a movie ever played on TV, tape it. Anytime a new episode of Dragon Ball Z was on, tape it. And I I had them listed like, this tape has the 20 episodes of Dragon Ball Z on it, and this tape has the next 20 episodes. And
and you could choose when you use the tape. You can do SP, LP, or SLP. And the SLP gives
I wasn't paying attention to the quality.
And you always had that one jerk friend who would do it in the middle speed, and there were some players that wouldn't have that.
Oh yeah.
So you'd borrow a movie or two from them, and then they'd get home and be like, you're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. It's like, oh, my player doesn't have the middle speed. That's why.
The LP one. But SLP really messed it up. Usually the mouth and the audio wouldn't go together.
Well,
it was
SLP
really a
is
bad idea to
horrible
go
of
SLP.
quality. Yeah.
I did everything on SLP, and I never had.
We all did, and we loved it.
I pondered doing the faster speed, but it's only 2 hours of tape.
Tape wasn't cheap back then. God damn it!
Like I had 6 hours of stuff I wanted to tape every day. You know?
Right, and these tapes were expensive. I ran into.
I remember when they got cheaper, man. I taped a lot of stuff before that, but when you could go finally get a VHS tape, like you get like a 3-pack or whatever for like $6 or whatever it was, like. Man, I was taping everything. And like I said, back then before DVD and stuff like that, I didn't have a Laserdisc player. So I didn't have the access to all that kind of stuff. But I would tape all like the if there was a behind the scenes special feature thing on TV or whatever, they would show before a movie would come out, I'd tape that. And I'd tape all the interviews and Siskel and Ebert or anything I could grab on Entertainment Tonight about a movie I was interested in. And I would have a whole tape full of, like, you'd have one that was marked Hulk, one was marked Independence Day, like all that kind of stuff. Batman Forever and so on.
I remember buying VCR tapes, Scotch brand VCR tapes for $1 each.
Yeah,
and
I remember
Memorex.
Cheap. Yeah,
Memorex.
I would tape every night. I would tape. What was the name of that? Something Hollywood.
Access Hollywood.
Right after Access Hollywood and Entertainment Tonight. I would tape those every single night, looking for Star Wars news.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the first places they showed
hundreds and hundreds of VCR tapes.
Well, that was because I remember that was a big deal too, because I remember not just I was before that already too, but it was like they would usually premiere a lot of the trailers back then. We didn't have the fucking internet, right? Yeah. Like they were one of the first places that showed like the Batman trailer, the episode 1 trailer and stuff. And I remember waiting forever to download the episode 1 trailer, and you'd watch it in this itty bitty little screen on your computer. And it literally took forever for it to download and just watch a minute trailer. It was crazy. But anyway, let's keep moving along here. Price, unless you had something more to say about Teen Wolf.
Just that I would actually buy cassettes like of companies that you barely ever heard of, something like Multitech, because they were cheap, even though they weren't good cassettes. So I'd buy the cheapest thing I could find and sometimes do SLP on it, which is really dumb, but what can I do?
Yeah.
Tim would buy the most expensive ones. Tim, I did the exact same thing when I was making.
Depends on what I was doing it for.
I wanted it nice. Yeah.
Yeah. If it was something I knew I wanted to keep, then I definitely, especially like when my buddy finally got a Laserdisc player, every time I'd buy my expensive tapes and have him make a tape for me. It was still cheaper than buying them, but
I did the same thing. The first time I bought a HDMI cable, I bought it because it said THX on
it. THX is hardly anywhere now. That's what's sad. Yeah. Disney hasn't done anything with it. But all right, so let's keep going then. We got number 4, on Scribe's list. Mr. T show. You had Mr. T cereal.
It had this orchestral opening music, and it had live action segments before and after the cartoon of Mr. T, like teaching you a life lesson in his gruff, tough love kind of way.
Don't put so much sugar in your body; it ruins you.
Yeah, and the plot of the cartoon was just so ridiculous. Mr. T and a roving team of teen athletes solving crimes. It's just so ridiculous. But I loved it as a kid. I loved Mr. T. I loved the A-Team. And you got that you always got that little lesson. It was sort of like the precursor for me to post-credit scenes in movies now, where it's like, what happened with Mr. T by the end of the thing? What lesson did he learn? Or, sort of like with G.I. Joe and have the more you know things. But yeah, and as far as I can recall, and somebody can correct me, I think, wasn't Mr. T doing the voice of his own character?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's where this saying came from too, if I'm not mistaken. Don't be a fool. Stay in school.
Yeah. I just even though it was a completely ridiculous setup. Yeah, and they had, I think, they have a talking dog, or like maybe not a talking dog, but an animated dog.
There was a dog, yes.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, and then the opening, they're always doing like athlete tricks, like off of like pommel horses and
I think it was also tied into the Olympics that 84 year.
Yeah, they were like a roving whatever. But anyway, he taught physical, he encouraged physical fitness and problem solving and being true to your friends. And watching out for yourself.
Like a phys ed teacher coach kind of thing.
Yeah. And so anyway, it was just something that I thought was cool when I was a kid, and I like watching them solve mysteries and find reasons to use their acrobatics to solve problems and take down bad guys and things. That was always nice. But
Chief Shadow, you need to go look on YouTube and see Mr. T had a cartoon indeed.
Yeah, well, is this really that obscure, Mr. T cartoon? Okay,
I think it was only on for like a year.
Oh well, it was a golden year for me then, because
I could be wrong, but like
I think I watched every episode.
He was one of those celebrities that was so hot for a hot minute, and then like between like 83, 84, all that stuff, the A-Team / Rocky 3 / whatever era, and then all of a sudden he just kind of fell off in like 86. Oh,
I remember when. Yeah, when Rocky 3 came out, I didn't see it until much later in life, but I saw like maybe a Siskel and Ebert thing about it, or some TV show thing about it. And all I remember is I saw this clip of Mr. T being mean to people. And I was like, what happened? No, I thought, I mean, in my little kid mind, I thought that some bad guy had done something to Mr. T to make him bad. Because like Mr. T wouldn't be a bad guy. It was like, what?
Okay, it ran 80 to 83, I guess it looks like here. But anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I
83 to 85. I mean, sorry.
I had all these notions about the golden nature of Mr. T, and then I saw clips for Rocky 3, and I thought someone had mind warped him or something. But anyway, yeah. So the Mr.
Show
T.
you what a real man's like.
Yeah, Mr. T. Phil Lamar did. I could believe that. I think I can imagine.
Yeah, Joe Pat Evans sends in $1.99, says Mr. T was one of the first shows Phil Lamar did. Oh.
That's good.
He's probably one of the kids, I'd imagine, at that point.
Yeah, he must have been a baby at that time.
Yeah, he's pretty young.
But anyway, yeah, so Mr. T, if nobody ever saw it, I bet there's 3 years and 30 episodes. Aha! So I wasn't like just in some very small niche period. Okay.
Here's the other big difference between syndicated cartoons and Saturday morning cartoons. They got more money, but the reason they had more money was obviously more sponsors. Plus, they only did like 10 episodes a year. Right. They would only do like one little season area of one time, and then they'd repeat them at nausea for the rest of the year until the new season. Yeah. And that was if it was lucky to get picked up for another season, if it was one of these cartoons usually.
But
that was a rarity.
Mr. T was a part of my early Saturday mornings. Loved it.
So I'm kind of surprised to see he got more than one season, actually, but yeah.
He's Mr. T. Why wouldn't he?
Mr. T. That's right. Nobody else got anything to say about Mr. T?
Nope.
I thought that in Rocky, that was his best role to date in Rocky 3. And maybe then the A-Team.
What about DC Cab?
DC Cab, I saw it on the heels of Rocky 3. On the heels of Rocky 3, I saw DC Cab in the theater. And I thought to myself as a kid that this is going to be more Mr. T, the way I liked him in Rocky 3. But then he kind of was a more
Newsflash, outside of Rocky 3, he's pretty much just playing Mr. T.
I understand, but I liked him as Clubber Lang. I wanted to see. I guess I was okay. I don't know. DC Cab is very forgettable. The A-Team, I thought it was at least they still made him kind of badass, but still he's a little nicer, I guess.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Mm-mm.
The cartoon I saw once. I wasn't able to catch it, but when I saw it, I didn't hate it, from what I remember.
Yeah.
Was there an A-Team cartoon?
No, I don't think so.
That's probably why I didn't. Because Face Man was, or the Face, or whatever his name was.
Dirk Benedict.
Yeah, and A-Team was my draw to the A-Team and my exposure to Mr. T.
You had a crush on Face Man?
I had a crush.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did. Starbuck.
All right. With that, let's keep going. Reboot, says CC. This would be the CGI animated Reboot show.
You said it correctly. Reboot. Canadian show. And the first full-length CGI television show came out before Toy Story, even, I believe, 94. Ran for 3 great seasons. And to me, it still holds up today. It's just a classic, I guess. I mean, I don't know who in the audience has seen it. If you haven't watched
I'm familiar with it, but yeah, I just know it for the fact that it was the first CGI animated half-hour cartoon, if I'm not mistaken.
Basically, all the characters in the show exist in your computer, and the computer owner, the user, sometimes loads games, and if the user wins the game, then the computer characters die because they get killed off, right? It's like there's a play on that thing where when you kill the enemy in a video game, you're actually killing somebody. There's just great villains. Hexadecimal is a classic. And just great
Didn't they do a reboot of Reboot not too long ago?
They did, and I guess it wasn't very good. I didn't watch it, so I can't say for sure, but I know it was not well received. So I have not yet checked it out. But I'm definitely, to me, like every time I saw Reboot on television, I'd tune into it. I got a lot of favorite episodes. The first 2 seasons kind of had a lot of standalones. There's one where everyone went 8-bit because I guess they were 16-bit back then. It was like one of the villains was a megabyte, right? early days of computers, right? So a megabyte was kind of a frightening amount of data. And then later in the series, the villain became gigabyte because computers were advancing by that point, and megabyte wasn't quite so frightening anymore. But it's just personal favorite. I don't know how much it aired outside of Canada, but in Canada, it was definitely a big deal at the time.
I've heard about it more so than anything, but yeah.
I know the word reboot. That's about it.
Reboot?
Not the show, though.
I saw it a couple of times. I forget exactly where it aired. It wasn't like a mainstream kind of thing. I think it might have been on like a local Fox affiliate or something. I don't know, but I never really, I knew of it and I have the images in my head, but I never really watched it much.
It holds up. I'll say that. I mean, it's early CGI, but it's just so well done. Like the expressions of the characters, it's very expressive animation and just good stories. So yeah, check it out.
Okay,
all right, that's what it's all about. We've got me next, and something on somebody else.
Did they air that on Saturday mornings?
My God, what kind of cartoon was that? Was it Fritz the Cat or something? Jesus.
But only half of you have voted.
Yeah, vote in the cereal poll, so we can come up with the #1 cereal for Saturday morning cartoons. Voting's free. Right. Vote often.
I think they used to show that show on public access in the middle of the night.
Oh my.
All right. Spice Channel.
Keep moving along.
Maybe it varied from market to market.
6 comes in with our very few handful of live action / whatever you want to call them type shows from Saturday morning. Land of the Lost.
Yes, this was not a cartoon, but it was definitely Saturday morning, and sparked the horrific movie with Will Ferrell.
Yes.
But this was the premise was, they go, this family or this group of explorers, I don't know if they were camping, I don't remember, but they go down this waterfall and they end up back in time, and there's dinosaurs, and then there's these alien life forms called the Sleestaks, or I don't know what they were called, but it was just about them, living there and how they had to make do with living back in the day, way back in the day. And I can remember playing Land of the Lost in the sprinkler outside with my sisters and our friends, because in order to get to the Sleestak or something, there was like one good Sleestak. Am I saying it wrong? Chat will help me. But you had to like go through this door of light or something like that, and we used to pretend that the sprinkler was the door of light, and it sounds really dumb now that I'm saying it out loud.
Oh, it's great.
But it was a lot of fun, and I loved there was a little baby dinosaur that they befriended, and I don't know if it kind of lived with them, but oh my god, it was so cute. And yeah, and I hadn't watched the movie up until it was just maybe 2-3 years ago. I tried watching it, and oh god, it was horrible. It was horrible. But the TV show I highly recommend. Even though, you know what I did? I saw that The Love Boat was on something, because that used to be a show that I'd watch Saturday night, The Love Boat and then Fantasy Island. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to watch the pilot, and I'll watch, a couple episodes. And my God, that show was terrible. Nothing's ever as good as it was. Yeah. The nostalgia, the memory, it always, things are so much better when you think back on them.
What was bad? The Love Boat or Fantasy Island?
Love Boat. I haven't watched Fantasy Island.
I mean, Love Boat was ridiculous. There was so many even as a kid, I thought it was ridiculous.
Oh no, I didn't. I loved it.
It's a chick show.
It had a formula. It had a formula, and I went by this formula every single time. It was before AI could write a screenplay, a teleplay, or whatever it is. Love Boat had the same stupid thing happen to every couple every time.
Yeah, it was great. It was. Anyway, it's not anymore. It's garbage, but
didn't it even ever seem strange to you that the Captain Stubing only invited the guest stars of that episode to eat with him at his table?
No, not at all.
It's just luck of the draw.
They were lucky every time.
I don't know why Carl kept getting on that boat, but
other people were invited. It would just happen in between episodes, you see.
I suppose, yes.
You didn't give a shit, so we didn't see those parts.
Yeah. I had a crush on Gopher, though.
Oh, God.
I was a horny kid. My God. What did I talk about? I was like,
Faceman and Gopher. Oh, how can I choose?
Well, I guess it's better than the Doctor.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, dear. Anyway, so that's Land of the Lost.
Yes.
Amen, Sadie.
I don't even know what she's barking at. Quit.
Gopher.
Probably somebody breaking in.
No. Nothing that exciting. Yeah. Whatever you just said. Then we've got Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yes. I didn't realize initially until you told me that it would be okay to consider it as a Saturday morning cartoon, although technically it wasn't exactly that, but
but it's the same kind of program.
He's a human cartoon. Come on.
He's a human cartoon. I really liked this show as a kid. I was so surprised. It looked like something stupid that I wouldn't like, and then I watched an episode and I couldn't get enough of it. I wanted to see every week. This was probably one of the things that I was the most excited for.
I always remember the opening sequence was so calming to me. It had this like luau kind of like lazy music to it as you're getting closer to his house. Then everything goes nuts when he goes, bop, 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 bop.
I have to say, Pee Wee Herman for kids. I know he later did naughty stuff or whatever, but I'm just saying that for kids at that moment in time, He was a good entertainer.
Yeah.
So you've never masturbated in public? I mean, really, what's the worst that he did? That's it, right?
Yes, but
As I know.
Here's the thing. I don't care what the guy did in a movie theater or whatever it is that he did. I really don't care. But because of his branding, it was somehow not the best for him.
Yeah.
For him, I'm saying, for his branding, it wasn't the best thing to get caught doing.
It was a movie theater where people were doing that anyways, wasn't it?
Yes.
If you're a public figure and one that sort of appeals to children with your content,
Yeah.
it's just not a good idea. It's not a matter of that I personally care,
No, it was a great show. I didn't know we were allowed to include it. But when you think about it, really, he's the only not animated thing on the show, too. So,
well, I remember watching the show.
And he is animated, so. Yeah.
Well, except for Lawrence Fishburne when he'd show up. Cowboy Curtis.
Most random thing that like Lawrence Fishburne was on. He was the cowboy.
Yep.
Cowboy Curtis.
And Genie. Mecca Lecca High, Mecca Hiney Ho.
But who played the genie? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, geez. I don't know. But I know that originally, back when Pee-wee was just a stage performance kind of thing, Phil Hartman basically helped write the character. And there was some, I remember there was, I don't know the backstory. Somebody in the chat probably
They
knows
were all
better than I do.
SCTV, or not SCTV, but
Groundlings.
Groundlings, yeah.
Yeah, they were groundlings. And there was some fallout between Paul Rubens and Phil Hartman because of credit for the creation of the character or some other thing going on. And I guess Paul Rubens always regretted not patching things up or whatever. So if I'm remembering this correctly, maybe somebody will have to correct me.
Six, you were about to say something?
I remember watching that show, and he went to the bathroom on the show, and you could hear him urinating. And I remember just being absolutely shocked that they were putting that on television. And I was just like, I have to tell somebody what's happening. Nobody's going to believe me. But yeah, I was just absolutely dumbfounded that they would dare to put something like that on television.
That's like
I wasn't offended. I was just like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, that's like back to the days where like flushing a toilet on All in the Family or something was like a big shocking thing for people because you never heard a toilet flush on television before. Like, what?
Yeah.
Unless it was about him trying to talk about washing your hands, perhaps, that I could see. But the thing with the Pee-wee show that I remember that was unique compared to the other stuff on Saturday mornings, aside from Rocky and Bullwinkle, that was still showing constantly, like, Pee-wee was the only show that I remember adults actually watching and getting involved in and like talking about.
Yeah, that wasn't really a kid's. I don't remember thinking of it as a kid's show. Maybe I was just super immature and horny. I don't know.
Wasn't King of Cartoons the guy that played Blackula? Am I misremembering that? Because occasionally King of Cartoons would show up, and I for some reason, just as you were talking about cartoons or what I was thinking about, wasn't that Blackula?
Gilbert Lewis first season, and then William H. Marshall subsequent seasons.
Oh, okay. So at least for a little while. Okay.
I remember it's weird that the lady that maybe the male lady, the male woman, she ended up being on Law and Order as the inspector for like 50 million years afterwards.
Wasn't there like a lady that would visit him that was like all dressed up in like pink or something? Like
Miss Yvonne?
Miss Yvonne. Oh, yeah. Miss Yvonne. I remember I had like childhood strange feelings about Miss Yvonne as a kid.
Really?
Yeah, no, she seemed cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, you got anything to add? Tom's dead.
Yeah, Tom's dead.
Well, I can't change the slide, so let's do some super.
No, Sadie's being a brat. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes. No, Pee-wee. Unless you're thinking of. See, here's the thing. Pee-wee started as a comedy show, and they did show it on HBO first, and it was more adult oriented. Like you can still find that out there. I think it's even on YouTube.
Yeah, it was pretty blue. It was like Phil Hartman.
Yeah, and then when they switched it for Saturday mornings, it was straight up a kids show. But yeah. But we had some underlying jokes for the adults, but yeah.
Yeah. Subtlety.
But all right, let's keep moving along here then. We've got another X.
Same one.
Oh no! Really? Oh shucks. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't wait to find out what it is. See, in the group chat for the shit list stream Sunday night, we all put our picks in, and then we didn't get to see Tom's. So
those are the XXXXXXs.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving along. Here's one from CC. I've never even heard of this one. Fillmore says I gotta yell it.
I heard of it.
It's one of my favorites. Now, I mean, I won't say it's the last great show that Disney ever made, but for me, it's the end of peak Disney. This is about 2002 to 2004. In the 80s and 90s, you had that great run of television shows, DuckTales, all the way to Gargoyles. And then they switched into that next generation with Recess. And then you had the Proud Family, the Weekenders, Jake Long, American Dragon, all that stuff. If you were around during that block, and Fillmore was kind of like it was the end of that block. It was one of the last shows, or the last show produced in that block. And it's my favorite of the bunch. I love all those shows. I can go back and watch them anytime, but particularly Fillmore. I have a disposition for stuff like Ace Attorney, investigation stuff. I always enjoy that. And Fillmore's right down that alley. Just a couple of characters investigating crimes at their school, and it's really, really well written. It's always a lot of fun. So I just, holds a higher mark for me anyways. It's the end of peak Disney. I would say that,
The name is familiar. Was it a little boy in a yellow pair of overalls?
That's he's wearing a kind of orange sash.
Like a beauty pageant sash?
No, they're like in a club at school. Like they're like kind of like a police force of a kind, but not like police force going to beat you up. No, like or like they're more like investigative, like club police force. Detective
like
investigations.
Boat or a belt. Okay.
Yeah,
I just googled it.
So it's just they're not like high crime. They're not like high crimes, but it's a take on investigative crime drama, but they're like stupid dramas, like somebody graffitis the bathroom and they got to figure out who did it.
Kid stuff.
Yeah,
basically.
All right, like Encyclopedia Brown and shit like that. All right, let's keep moving on. Do. I mean, come on. I saw this was on Price's list and then he dumped it, so I had to put it on mine. Because it's Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Aren't you going to do the voice?
Watch out, because here we come. It's been a while, but we're back in style, so...
Do your whole review of it in that voice.
Well, what's great about Alvin and the Chipmunks is that when Ralph Bogdasarian Jr. and his wife took over doing these characters, they actually gave them more of a personality, and it's that personality that has sustained to this day. Dave was also toned down quite a bit. They were given more of a world and treated more like children who had a singing career. Where did my shit get fucked up? I guess I had another one. See, Bill and Ted I fucked up on, see?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that one yet.
Yeah, I fucked that up. That was my fault. Yeah, no, because I had Life with Louie on there originally.
Oh.
That's why.
Tom was doing 17 things while he was.
And I fucked up. So anyway, maybe we'll talk about Bill and Ted at the end. Anyway, Alvin and Chipmunks is classic. Plus, you had all the modern music plus original music that I thought was actually pretty good. And I know a lot of people aren't fans of the Chipmunks, but since you did have this originally on your list, Price, I'm sure you want to say something about them.
I think he said, "Be right back." He did say, "Be right back." I always thought that they were awfully cute because they're cute little furry animals, and I love animals, but their voices got a little grating after a while. but their little outfits were cute. Their little hats. Am I alone? Did everybody dump me?
You are not alone.
All right, Tom keeps dipping out.
Oh, I would never leave you, Six. I'm here.
Oh,
Well, what did you want to talk
I
about?
asked you, Price, if you wanted to bring, since it was on your list originally, and then you exited it off your list, if you wanted to talk about Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, initially it was on my list, but once it turned out that Pee-wee's Playhouse was legit, then I had to bump it off. I liked it. It was a nice cartoon. I kind of liked it. I liked it with the voices and the characters and everything. I had even enjoyed watching sometimes in the afternoons they'd show the older version. There was like an older version of this Alvin and the Chipmunks that the animation wasn't as good, and it was, do you get what I'm trying to say? I even like that. But this was kind of a more modern one with better animation, and I liked it. And it had the girls, it had the guys. There were three of them, and then there was also Jeanette and whatever their names were, the other two ladies. Six. What was the other? Brittany, Jeanette, and
Marsha.
I'm trying to remember now.
Marsha.
Simon, Alvin, Theodore, Brittany, Jeanette, and Lisa.
Christina?
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's like Brittany, Jeanette, and shit.
Felicia.
Who's the other one?
Marianne.
I'll know it once I hear it.
Griselda.
No.
Oh.
McKenna.
The Chipettes. I know that. Yeah.
I wish I was talented enough to do the Mark Wahlberg listing off of the
Eleanor.
Eleanor, that's
Eleanor. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was so close. The fact that I even got Brittany and Jeanette, I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, yeah, as I brought up before, Ross Bagdasarian started them, but then his son and his son's wife took him over after he passed. And I noted that in the 80s version is where they finally got personalities. Because in the original Alvin and the Chipmunks, the only one who really has a personality is Alvin, and he's just a little shit. Basically, right. That's about it.
That's true. But I somehow even like the old version. But the new one had something.
I do, but it's a totally different tone. Yeah,
totally different. And the animation wasn't as good. It felt more Hanna-Barbera-ish, the older one.
Well, Alvin and the Chipmunks in the original one was one of the first Saturday morning cartoons. So it's had several iterations since this. I mean,
I think Chipmunks movie was the peak Chipmunks. Honestly, Chipmunks movie was great.
You mean the live action?
No. I'm talking about the animated The Chipmunks movie where they're going like around the world.
Yes,
yeah, where they're going around the world and they're like getting all the treasures and things. That I thought that was peak Chipmunks.
Undersung movie, and it's a completely independent feature that they made on their own. And
that's great.
I agree with you. It's the Chipmunk Adventure is, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's actually pretty good. They basically get duped into smuggling diamonds for these bad guys.
It's great, and the bad guys are amazing. It's just like
the animation is really good too.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I say, it's sort of like I always thought of it in the same realm as like watching Fievel Goes West and that kind of thing. Like sort of.
What's funny about that movie is when it was being made, is when Disney was falling apart in their animation department. That's why the animation in that movie is so good. They started picking up Disney animators. So a lot of them are trying to show off. So that's why seriously, watch that movie. That animation in that movie is really fucking good.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. And I for some reason, I don't know why this is, the male villain guy at the beginning, I just remember him complaining about how he got his socks wet, and he's like, "They're my Pierre Cardin socks." It's like, I don't know why that sticks in my brain.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name. It's like Vincent or something like that.
Yeah, they're like brother and sister, and they're like diamond smugglers or something, and so they dupe the kids into going on a worldwide adventure to. Yeah,
I was just saying, the only thing that bothered me about that movie, from when I was a kid, okay, because this is what I brought up during the Squeakquel. That pissed me off about the newer one was because in the Squeakquel, the girls just come and live with the boys. I'm like, that's not how it works.
No,
like they were orphans too, just like the Chipmunks were, but Miss Miller took them in.
Right.
Okay. So then here's the thing. This all happened before the movie, and the movie picks up, with continuity of the show basically, because it actually was where the show got revamped after this movie. They updated the animation and their designs and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm like, who the fuck is watching the girls then? Because Miss Miller's watching the boys. She comes over to watch the boys for Dave while he's leaving. So I'm like, so who is supposed to be watching the girls all this time? That bothered me. Even as a kid, I'm like, who's supposed to be their babysitter then? Like, doesn't Miss Miller notice they're gone? Like, what the hell? Yeah, Dave, are you drunk? Miss Miller.
Hello, Miss Miller. This is Dave. Yeah, that's a great. No, yeah, peak Chipmunks and Chipmunks. I thought it was a Chipmunks movie, a Chipmunks Adventure. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, it's like you can find it streaming on like Amazon Prime and things right now, and go for it. It's great.
The live action ones were kind of mid.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, the first one was okay. Passable. Then from there on out, they just went because it's like they forgot their own continuity. Like I said. And then I think they introduced Miss Miller, I think, in the third film, but she's like a completely different character in comparison to what she was before, if I remember right. Like she was a teacher or something. I don't remember much from the movies. I quit watching after part 3, and I don't even think I finished watching part 3. So yeah. That was the other thing that I thought was stupid about the first live action movie. I'm like, because if this was fucked up, all the way up until a certain point, you watch the early trailers for the movie, the voices that are being done for the Chipmunks, that's the same people doing the Ralph and his wife doing the voice from the cartoon. At the last minute, the studio wanted some names to throw on the poster. So they brought in Justin Long and like, what was it? Some like two kids from like boy bands at the time. I can't remember the other two guys who did the voices.
Yeah, some little shits they brought to replace them.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck? And what is the point of that? You can't tell it's Justin Long doing the voice. It's all pitched up and shit. I'm like, what the fuck's the point? I'm like, you might as well just left the original Chipmunk voices in there for people like us going to see it. That's kind of like bringing in Optimus Prime to a point. You know what I mean? It's like, it's nice having that little connection to the past. But the upside is when they're singing, it is the original voices. It's not Justin Long in those guys.
It's not like Justin Long exactly was such a big draw. You put his name on his poster.
Exactly.
I think people were just coming
Jesse
to see it because of the
was one of the other ones. Yeah. No, I know. Fox got cold feet, and they're like, "Oh, we need some names to put on the poster and to get the teenagers in there." And
Oh man, like, Justin Long, boy, tiger bait right there, huh? Jesus.
You can't even tell it's him. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was kind of pointless.
Yeah.
Because you watch the original trailers and they have the original voice in it, and then you watch
Weren't they pissed? Weren't they pissed that they replaced them?
They probably didn't care because at that point they'd already been paid.
Yeah, exactly. They got a paycheck either way.
And it helped revive the Chipmunks because at that point the franchise had been dormant kind of for like 10 years almost. Well, maybe not quite, because what they did was they did this show, then they did the revamped version of the same show, and then they went into the Chipmunk movies, which was where all it was they would do parodies of movies. That's where you got like the Batman parody and the Frankenstein parody and all that stuff. And that lasted for the last season. And then they stopped. And I think that was like, it was one of the longest. Alvin and the Chipmunks is one of the longest running Saturday morning cartoons as far as like in its initial run, aside from Scooby-Doo, if you don't, because they actually switched things. But yeah. So I think it ran for almost 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like 8 or 9 seasons, if I remember right. But anyway, moving on.
Let's do a couple super chats.
We got Camelbach Killer sending in $5. Says my favorite Saturday morning cartoons are. I got a drum thing, but I'm not going to do it. Number 5, Zelda Super Mario. G.I. Joe. Thundercats. Thundercats. I thought that was daytime, but yeah. Muppet Babies and Mapletown. I know the name Mapletown. I'm trying to place it.
I'm writing it down. I'm going to look it up because I like maple candy. So. Maybe I'll like the show. But yeah, a lot of people have been mentioning G.I. Joe.
Just saying Beetlejuice. I don't remember G.I. Joe being on Saturday mornings.
Do you remember Beetlejuice?
Hell yeah, I do.
Yes, yeah, that was awesome.
That was another one that was pretty good. Yeah. It almost made my list. Andre Enrico says in the 80s they even adapted R-rated films into cartoons such as Rambo and RoboCop. Yes, but those were also syndicated, and that's why they didn't. Because Rambo would have made my list possibly. I don't know.
Were they R-rated? They weren't R-rated cartoons.
No. Kids? It was basically an excuse so they could make the toys. But yeah, since it's on here now, and I didn't talk about it before, Bill and Ted season 1 specifically, not season 2, but season 1 of the Bill and Ted Excellent Adventures is one of the best TV to movie or movie to TV cartoon adaptations because it has a lot of the original people involved with the original movie, including Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, and George Carlin doing their voices.
Wow.
And the first season, even though it's obviously it's tamed down slightly from what obviously the movie was PG rated, it still carries a lot of the same tone. And since you have the original characters or the original actors playing the characters, they feel right. You know what I mean? Like it's a little goofier, a little hammier, but it's fun. And of course it's just another excuse to give kids a little bit of a history lesson while Bill and Ted have an adventure. Like they meet Babe Ruth and some other people and stuff like that throughout the show. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So while I had a minute here, I figured I'd talk about that real quick. I don't know if any of you guys remembered it or not.
I remember it.
Second season, it went kind of off the rails because they got different people involved. But yeah. Then we got Jason. Go ahead.
Jason Webster says for an Australian $5. Oh, Tom, you do it because I like your accent.
Australian $5 dues.
Yeah. Read the whole thing like that.
My choice is for top 5 Saturday morning cartoons. Number 5, we went outside, you fucking Americans, a bunch of lazy bastards. Number 4, we ran. Number 3, we rode bikes. Number 2, we shot shit. Just kidding. Number 5 is Scooby-Doo. Number 4, Wacky Races. Yeah, that's one I'm surprised didn't make anybody's list.
Never heard of
that. Was kind of like the Cannonball Run version of cartoons. It was where Hanna-Barbera took all their cartoon characters and threw them in this like wacky race cartoon, like a Cannonball Run.
Oh,
like they were all teamed up and they had different wacky cars and shit. It was kind of fun.
Like Laugh Olympics.
Yeah. Oh, that was another fun one. Yes. And that didn't last very long either.
Yeah.
And that was also to tie in with the Olympics, if I remember right as well. Then we got number 3, Looney Tunes, which Looney Tunes, even though they were just reruns of the old animated shorts that were shown in front of movies, they did do original like stuff with like eventually with like Roadrunner and Coyote, I think were animated directly for television. But all they did was just change the title of the show. I mean, I think it started out as Porky Pig initially, then it was Bugs Bunny Roadrunner, then it was Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show when I was a kid.
I remember that when they were airing here, they had the 60s and the 80s stuff mixed up. So they would like, I would always pay attention when the short would start. I would say, oh, because it had the year on the title card.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that one's from that year.
I could always tell how it started.
Yeah, and then they would follow, and the next one would be from like the 1980s. And
plus, I remember the intro. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun,
I don't know if it was on Saturday mornings that they were airing here. I can't remember.
Oh, they showed all the time, but
yeah.
They specifically had the ones on, I think it was ABC that showed them for years. But yeah, they were nonstop. The reason I was bringing it up is they were the only one of these cartoons that we mentioned that never stopped from the moment Saturday morning cartoons were a thing to the day they ended them. Looney Tunes were always a part of it for my research. But then he's also got Pinky and the Brain and Batman the Animated Series. There you go. Of course, Pinky and the Brain was a spinoff of Animaniacs, if I'm correct.
I almost had it, but I wasn't sure if it counts. So.
See, I thought that was daily here too, but I can't remember if maybe Pinky and the Brain might have been Saturday morning since it was a spinoff. But then I think you found the thing that Animaniacs did go to Saturday mornings in its final
it was
season.
a Steven Spielberg production, right? So they aired that
but it was through
prime
Fox.
time as a big event.
Yeah, I think Fox was one of the first ones to actually have network shows that they showed that weren't just syndicated shows, and Animaniacs and Tiny Toons were part of that. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to say, CC.
I mean, I'm sure it eventually ended up on Saturday, but it was such a big deal that it was like that was actually a prime time cartoon, right?
Yeah, it was a big deal when it came out because it also came out around the same time as Batman the Animated Series, and a Gremlins cartoon that never happened was supposed to happen at the same time. It was basically Warner Brothers' answer to Disney Afternoon Chunk, where they would do, at least in the US it was, because they would have Disney had like, DuckTales and Darkwing Duck and Tailspin and Gummy Bears was early on, but then they had another one later. I'm trying to remember what it was. But anyway, so Warner Brothers' answer to that was Fox, at least network here in the US, had like Batman the Animated Series, and a bunch of the ones you said. And I think Beetlejuice was actually part of that too, but that also was on Saturday mornings as well. But that was one of those crossover ones. But anyway, Brian Key sends in 2 and says Enoch was this talking sleaze sack. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I was going to say, I think you nailed it pretty well. John
I'm gonna have to look that show up again and see if it's so wonderful.
I'm sure there's a couple episodes on
somewhere
YouTube if you can't find it on streaming. John Evan Bear sends in $2 Canadian, says, how did I miss out on XXXXXXX? Well, that was Debbie Does Dallas, the animated series. There you go.
Whoa.
Mr. Burger sends in 5 and says, sweet Jesus, the next time you do this show, have me on. Oh, please, Mr. Burger. I beg you. I love you all, but you are so wrong about it. You know what, Mr. Burger? I want to have you on a regular mead, but yeah, you're definitely more than welcome to join us for one of these shows.
He needs to be a special guest.
Indeed. So you get to pick the topic for that night, and we'll discuss that.
Within reason.
Within reason, yeah, because we'll discuss that.
Within reason in all caps.
But thank you, Mr. Burger. And Thomas Dean sends in $4.99, says, as a little kid, I loved the Chipmunk Adventure. There's a part where the villain's dog pokes a hole in the brothers' float. I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, it was pretty good. And it holds up. I actually...
the villain's dog pokes a hole
in the brothers' float. Like, he's got like little floaties on.
Gotcha.
Theodore. Yeah. Gotcha. And yeah, actually I bought it on Blu-ray not too long ago, a couple years back, and it still holds up pretty good. E. Clay Thomason sent us a pooper sticker. What? How dare you send me a pooper sticker? Or is that the Vince McMahon sticker now?
No.
Well, it used to be the Amber Turd. But anyway. So, all right, let's see where our poll's at. At least a good portion of you have voted. So we're going to end this poll. Captain Crunch came out ahead. Holy crap, holy.
Yeah.
Wow. As it should.
I can't believe it beat out Cookie Crisp. Cookie Crisp was a staple for my Saturday morning cartoons. I would fill up a bowl, eat it, and I would leave the milk in the bowl, and then I'd go back and put more cereal in the bowl. So I'd 2 for the price of 1 milk.
Right.
That shit was good. Probably still is. I haven't had it in a while.
How about Cocoa Pebbles?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Bonnie, those are my Cocoa Pebbles.
I used to like those because I like the Flintstones.
I remember Flintstone Kids were on Saturday mornings. And they did a song about putting on your seatbelt to the Bone song. I remember that too.
To the bone saw?
You know, like the hip bones connected to the leg bone. Yeah. I'm trying to remember how their version of it went. Is something like, yeah, I can't remember now. It's been so many years. I'm sure it's on YouTube though. But anyhow, let's keep moving on. Or we got all the super chats, right? Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. You're very vented. Oh, speaking of, we just got another one from Rob Altus and Toddzilla.
Hey, Rob.
Rob Altus sends in 5 and says, I lived Arc 2, Cool Vehicles, and Chimp, and John Marie Hahn.
Oh my God. I fucking forgot about that.
That was an older one, yeah.
That was back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah. Toddzilla sends in $2, says Smurfs, Snorks, D&D, and Ewoks, droids. Yes. D&D, I'm surprised that hasn't shown up yet, but we'll see if it does.
Yeah, no spoilers.
So thank you, Toddzilla. And then we've got back to the top of the order. We've got 6. Speaking of Looney Tunes, go ahead.
Speaking of Looney Tunes, gosh, Foghorn Leghorn, when he's teasing that dog that's chained to the doghouse, and he walks up to the dog and he lifts him up by the tail and he smacks him a bunch of times on the butt, and then he runs and he has a line drawn just as far as the dog's chain goes. I mean, it's terrible. You wouldn't think that I would find that so hilarious, but when I think of Looney Tunes, I think of that scene and how funny that is.
I like when he's trying to teach his girlfriend's son, which makes me wonder, wouldn't that actually be his kid? Because he's the rooster. So like all those kids would be hits.
Yeah. Wasn't that? And then Pepe Le Pew, was that Looney Tunes?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and Speedy Gonzales, because I'm racist.
Hippie, andale.
But probably the Roadrunner was probably
it's actually not racist, because I think that if I remember correctly, they did a poll and people in Latin American countries actually really like the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mikey
I
even
love
says
Speedy
he likes him.
Gonzales. I
But,
mean,
yeah.
I still say andale when I'm trying to get a coworker to move her ass. Yeah.
I'm Marvin the Martian.
Oh gosh, yeah. Looney Tunes was that was my childhood before.
Why did you bury me in the cold, cold ground? I always love that. You know, it's funny because like two of the most popular Looney Tunes, Marvin and Tasmanian Devil, were only in like 3 or 4 original Looney Tunes shorts.
Yeah, that was the frustrating thing. It's like every time the show was on, I was hoping it would be the Marvin episode.
Yeah,
it was
I think Tad was only
rarely
in like 2 or 3, but yeah, original ones. Yeah, but he ended up getting his own show eventually.
I had a few girls in my friend group in high school who they used to draw Marvin the Martian on their ankle because they wanted a tattoo. They thought they'd be so cool.
Believe it or not, he's one of the easier ones to draw.
They probably would, but yeah. Yeah, that's true too.
He is. If you sit down and realize it and look at him and like it is. He's one of the easiest ones to draw.
Yeah.
Scott Hughes sends in 5. Says, are the complete original unedited Looney Tunes available to buy on DVD anymore? Well, to my knowledge, yes. They're actually pretty close to having all of them out. Now, I'm not 100% sure on the like half dozen of them that are considered the most racist or whatever. I don't know if those have been released yet or not. I'd have to do some more research, but I know at this point almost all of them have been released in HD as well on Blu-ray and regular DVD. In fact, they've got another volume coming out pretty soon, so they're getting there. There's like close to 500, I think altogether, like 400 some, and they've released like 300 some. If that tells you anything, like they're really close to getting all of them out by now. But no, they don't hold them back like Disney does. They're not embarrassed by them. In fact, they had quite a few of them on HBO Max for a while there. I think they still do. So, of all different eras.
It's a different.
Yeah.
It was always a different company that made Looney Tunes. You know, they were always not like I know we're like in an era in the last few years, but like they were never like that, really. You know, historically. So yeah, I hope they just release it.
Yeah, they have so far. So
did you just read this one?
Yes, I did. Thank you. All right. Anything else to say about Looney Tunes, guys? I say anything else to say.
That's good. God, you sound just like him.
I said that boy ain't bright. About as bright as a dim bulb. He had some of the best like little one-liners like all the time. But anyway, anything else, guys?
That's not what I wanted. Where is it? God bless America. Looney Tunes also taught us to appreciate opera at a young age. Yes.
That's true.
Then I saw something that Bugs Bunny,
Barber of Seville,
first trans dresser or something about.
Oh God, yeah. Wouldn't that be the Marx Brothers before him? But maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. So.
Did you ever find Bugs Bunny attractive when he would dress up like a girl bunny?
No.
Six's, you know, that reaction in that movie is real. He did not know that Dana Carvey was going to ask him that. It was like at the end of a take. So the laugh is.
It seems authentic. I've always thought it seems authentic.
They just left it in because it was so funny. It wasn't in the script or anything. He's just said it out of the blue. Neither did I. Just thought I'd ask.
Okay, we're gonna lose Scribe soon.
Yes, we are. So we're almost there, guys. Then we've got Smurfs. Sprice.
Yes. Oh, it's me.
Probably one of the more popular, well-known Saturday. Another one like Chipmunks that just ran forever from my memory.
That's another show that I feel like these days a lot of those cartoons are seen differently. Although you think that Hollywood had come full circle, now they should love it because there's a kind of weird communism feel to that cartoon, and certain things that weren't as obvious when we were watching them as kids.
It's not obvious to me now. What? The Smurfs were communists?
It's completely. It's like a communist village of weirdos. If you look at, I mean, as a kid I loved it, but if you as an adult start looking at those things, there's a really weird messaging in that show, I think.
Okay.
But I always think that's why you don't see so many reruns of those cartoons, or I don't really see much of them anywhere, and I think because they have weird messaging. But I could be wrong.
No, you're not wrong. It's just,
they're all working together. They're kind of workers. They have to all look the same. And then the one guy, the Papa Smurf.
You're assigned a job or a role, basically. Yeah.
Right, and Papa Smurf has a beard and he has the red cap that kind of looks kind of like he would be a Russian. And then,
oh my God, are you wearing a tinfoil hat right now?
He's not wrong though.
No, it's true.
I'm telling you that there's something weird about that show.
This kind of shit up before. Plus, yeah, it's you only got one chick.
Yeah, and they had to conjure her up. She was actually
how
not
is that
even
Gargamel. He's Gargamel's spy.
Right.
Yeah, he created her out of alchemy, and then she was evil, and she was.
That's what spy. That one movie said, didn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was ever in the cartoon, but the only thing I really remember, other than a few randomly early cartoons of it, was I remember the big event they had when they added the new Smurfs, because Smurfs were only born once in a blue moon.
Right.
And they added another girl and a couple other Smurfs that were a little bit more
the redhead with the ponytails or whatever, and then they had like
overalls.
3 other ones that are
like a
like
bit more of a tomboy, but yeah.
And then there was Grandpa Smurf and a dog. They somehow threw in that, but those were just kind of attempts to keep it fresh.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it's had a DVD or Blu-ray release, maybe DVD, but I don't think it's had a Blu-ray release. It is on. I can't remember which streaming service in HD though, because I remember seeing an episode of it or whatever, and I'm like, holy shit, the Smurfs.
I feel like nobody is saying this, but there's something about that cartoon and with its messaging that people prefer. Maybe now, full circle, they actually will want to release it, but for years, I feel like people steered away those companies from releasing collections and stuff.
Might be a rights thing, because I know Peyo, or however you say his name, was the one who made them, and Snorks was also made by the same people.
Yeah, and you know what? Snorks I don't see often either.
Yeah, it's kind of fallen into obscurity as well.
I didn't mind the Snorks, but they were basically just trying to be the Smurfs in the water. And, yeah, the underwater. I wish I was at that marketing meeting where they decided to make that show. They're like, all right,
we got Smurfs, but underwater.
Let's do it.
And they got snorkels instead of hats. We'll call them Storks. I guarantee that's exactly what fucking happened.
That's exactly what happened. There's no other explanation for it. But yeah, it was a good show. As a kid, they did build something nice there. They had the song that they used to sing, and each character kind of, even though they looked the same, they had the different characters, and I don't know. There was something that they did that captured the imagination of children on that show, and for whatever it was good.
Yeah. All right. Like I said, we're kind of running low on time here, so we got to keep moving along here. Scribe.
Yep.
Incredible Hulk. Now, this would be the animated one that I believe Lou Ferrigno did the voice of the Hulk for.
That could be true. All I do remember is that the opening would have Stan Lee going like, "Hello, true believers." And I always loved that voice, and I never had a face to put to that voice when I was very young. I only had that voice, and it was the most welcoming, comforting voice ever, and got me excited because I'm going to watch the Incredible Hulk. And he'd like bust stuff up and go after bad guys and roar and everything. And I had my Incredible Hulk doll, and my mom she made an Incredible Hulk shirt for me when I was very young. I was like, "Oh, Incredible Hulk!" I used to like flex my arms for my mother and growl at her because I'm Incredible Hulk. And this is how these things stick in my mind, because they were just the stuff of the best part of my childhood, is just watching these superheroes be super and do good things, and watch them save people and go after the bad guys. And I like I said, I didn't do any like research to give any sort of like trivia or anything about the show, because I just want to go off of my impressions of why, when you brought up the topic, why they made my instantaneous choices. I love the Incredible Hulk. I love the Doctor, maybe not the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde of it so much, because the Hulk was always like a good guy, so he was like a bad guy, but the lessons of morality, the sort of seeing, feeling the Bruce Banner of yourself, but also knowing that you have an inner strength kind of thing. All those lessons I was growing up as a kid with. And the Incredible Hulk was one half of my Marvel experience on Saturday mornings when I was growing up. My number one, I think I've already given it away, but yeah, I just love the Incredible Hulk. Love the cartoon. And the opening was always so, I remember the opening theme music was like these huge like barrel drums, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Da, da, da. I was like, oh wow.
I think this showed with
happening.
another one, like you were just saying, but like, yeah. And the other thing about these ones in the 80s specifically was, in my opinion, they had some of the best designs of these characters in that era.
Yeah. Yeah. Most iconic, I think. Most refined at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hulk is no exception here too. And I'm pretty sure this is the one that Lou Ferrigno did the Hulk part. Cause this is what was weird about it was, I remember as a kid, it was weird for me because I remember on the TV show, that was my first exposure to the Hulk, the Lou Ferrigno show with Bill Bixby. And then this cartoon came a couple years after that. So this was already, post that. But the Hulk would talk as the Hulk. Remember, he would say words here and there, not like flat out sentences, but you know what I mean? So I was like, wait a minute, the Hulk's not supposed to talk. But then my mom would go, because this is what I remember, but she's like, yeah, no, but it's the guy who plays the Hulk doing the voice. And in my mind, it's like Bill Bixby. So like years later, I found out that it was Lou Ferrigno actually doing the and the Hulk smash and the stuff like that. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. Unless you had more to say about it, anybody else?
That's
I know you're low on time here, and you got a couple more to go. Number 2 for CC is Goof Troop. Now this was a afternoon cartoon here, but you had it in Saturday mornings. You said where you were at, so
that's really how I consumed a lot of this. Yeah, I say Fillmore was my favorite of the first block. Even though Recess might have been the most influential, and for the original block that started with DuckTales, my favorite was Goof Troop. And for me, it was the animated. It was animation brought to life of all my favorite like classic family sitcoms. I was really, really big on that stuff. Like Family Ties was huge. I never missed an episode of Family Ties or Home Improvement. And then you got Goof Troop, which just took all the best qualities of those shows and put it into a Disney cartoon with the best of their like top tier characters, right? Because it really is in that Mickey Mouse vein. And it's just very wholesome, right? It's like a good father being a good father to his son, and then and the neighbor and the relationships between them and the neighbor, and it's like, and the movie was great too. It's just little touches, things like when he's helping his son do his math homework and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why I picked it. I just it was right up my alley, and I just real feel good messaging kind of family sitcom.
So there's no underlying fascist message?
No.
Not like the Smurfs.
It's an episode where they go fishing, they love
except for
fishing.
Pete. Pete's kind of a jerk.
He's totally a jerk.
Hey, Goof. But anyway, no, I think this will come up if we do afternoon cartoons, which is likely to happen. So I'm not going to dwell on it too much unless anybody else wants them to say anything real quick about it. But yeah.
Nope.
I know we're pressed for time now. But all right. Moving on, we've got my number 2, and I believe this was the one that was.
This is my number 3, I think.
Yes. So.
Yeah.
Wait, Tom, what was your number 4? Or did we not get to it?
We haven't got to it yet. It's somebody else's number 1. Okay. Anyway, Ghostbusters. Yeah, the real Ghostbusters. I mean, it was an excellent cartoon. It just completely dominated my youth of the age of 6, 7, and 8 until I discovered the Ninja Turtles. Of course, I like the syndicated version better than the Saturday morning version because that didn't have Lorenzo music. It had Dave Coulier instead of him doing Venkman's voice, and it was always a bit more brighter and not as scary. And then when we get to the later seasons, it really went off the rails with the Slimer and the Real Ghostbusters business.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scribbles, since you got to leave soon.
Well, yeah. So yeah, Ghostbusters. I mean, I don't know what I can say that anybody else couldn't say. It was just those first couple of seasons were just brilliant. The comedy was there. You could watch. I mean, even now, I remember watching an episode or two a couple of years ago, and I thought I could still watch this because even though it was silly and everything, I never felt talked down to. The characters always rendered so uniquely one another, and the personalities and the chemistry and the writing between the characters was always so great. And I had a major sentimental connection to this cartoon because Ghostbusters was a film my father took my sister and I to see when we were very, very, very young to get us out of the house while my mom had a baby shower for a friend of hers. And so this was my sister's first movie when she was like 4, I think, or something. And it scared the hell out of us because you don't take toddlers to Ghostbusters. But it made such an impression on us that we'd always watch it. We'd always like hide underneath a blanket or something when the librarian ghost came up at the beginning. And so to watch this show as an extension of that, even though there was I remember one episode of The Real Ghostbusters where they go and watch the movie of the Ghostbusters, and there's actually a clip from the film in the cartoon.
Yes.
It kind of threw me for a loop. I thought, so is this taking place in the real world, or is what? It was just. But I remember one thing I do remember that didn't make sense to me until much later in life. There was an episode. I think it was early on. It was called "A Collect Call of Cthulhu."
Oh yeah, the earlier ones were really
and I think
shit in them.
I remember correctly, I found out later that if I am someone who's in the chat can correct me, I think that episode in particular was written by J. Michael Straczynski.
I believe you're right.
Yeah, and so as I got older and I understood the reference to Cthulhu and everything else, it just became so mind-boggling. It was like, wow, that's why this stuff was so good.
I remember that one, the Halloween episode, and the Boogeyman episode specifically. Those 3 episodes.
Yeah, the Sam
Hain episode.
Yeah.
Those, oh my God, were they terrifying?
Yeah, they were, and Egon and them explaining like the real lore behind Sam Hain or Samhain or whatever is like, wow, I learned a whole bunch of weird things from that show, and it was great.
Yeah, they didn't hold a lot of that shit back either. See, and that's my second experience with adults being interested in a kid's cartoon was when Ghostbusters came out.
Yeah, like I said, it was a time where they didn't talk down to their audience, and they could cross generational lines because they were being cross the streams. But yeah. And then I don't know. I hate to be the hurry.
Yeah, you got one more here that we're gonna jump to your number 1 real quick.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, that's fine. And it actually goes with your number 2. I wish we would have done it better, but I knew Ghostbusters was coming up, so that's why I did it this way. But your number 1 is Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Yeah, Spider-Man fan. I think since I was born. My 3-year-old birthday cake was a homemade Spider-Man cake by my mother. I had a Spider-Man costume when I was a kid. Always loved Spider-Man, always related to him because of, nerdy Peter Parker, but then he was a superhero secretly and everything. And this show, man, everything I ever loved about Spider-Man was this show. Green Goblin and the early, like, I didn't know about the X-Men at that age. So I didn't know anything about Iceman. I just thought he was a really, no pun intended, cool guy. And then, of course, Firestar was created for the show. I'd never seen her on a comic book before, so I wasn't quite sure where she fit in. But yeah, they just go around find the Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus and the Vulture and all these other characters. And it was, like I said, it was just like comic book brought to life. And I always loved when he had to turn on his secret headquarters by pulling the football trophy. But it always did. I always thought, anybody who walks into Peter Parker's apartment and sees a football trophy should be suspicious because he's not an athlete. He's secretly not. So I always thought it was weird that I had a football trophy. I thought that was kind of like an inside joke or something. But his couch would turn over into a computer or something, and his fireplace would flip around. I always thought that was cool. Yeah, I don't know. I had such a connection to Spider-Man and the Green Goblin and all those characters when I was a kid that to see this every Saturday morning, to see him run around on his adventures and work together with Iceman and Firestar and take down everybody. It was in that opening music and sequence. It made me happy every Saturday. It was about my high point of my Saturdays as a kid, and I loved it.
Spider-Man was never on my radar until the first Tobey Maguire movie. He just didn't do anything for me. Now I love Spider-Man.
Well, this is my first exposure to Spider-Man. Yeah,
I watched him on the Electric Company for some reason.
Yes, yep, he showed up on the Electric Company.
Too, yeah, and I did show Spider-Man, those ones too in syndication. But this on Saturday mornings was this Incredible Hulk showed back to back.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It was like the Marvel Power Hour or something. I don't know what it was, but either way, yeah. But I can't remember getting more excited for anything other than Spider-Man. Like I had to be there. I remember kids in the audience. This is before you could tape these things or watch them anytime. You had to be there at exactly the right time and watch the whole thing.
I don't remember if this was I don't remember how this worked, but I remember there was Spider-Man, just Spider-Man, not with his amazing friends. But just Spider-Man. I don't remember if that came later or earlier, and then they added the Hulk later, or it was vice versa. That now. Because you had, because for a while there, the block was Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man and his amazing friends, and then other times it was Spider-Man and his amazing friends and Incredible Hulk, and vice versa. I can't rember which order it came in.
I think Spider-Man came first. I think Amazing Friends came after as a sort of extension-ish.
Yeah, probably would make sense. And then eventually Hulk came in, and then they just moved out Spider-Man and.
Yeah. And there was a pilot for an X-Men series that you can find out there that they didn't actually go on with, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Where Wolverine was Australialian, which was funny.
Okay, so Spider-Man was 81, then that one probably came first, and then
Amazing Friends I think was 83 or 84, something like that.
That makes more sense. That sounds about right. Because I was probably also trying to compete with another one that may come up later. We'll find out.
I guess so.
But thank you, Scribe, for being here. Anything to plug on your way out? I know you got to run.
Let's see. So Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, I have a show called TED Excellence, where I take a look at TEDx talks with TEDx Bingo, trying to learn something or entertain yourselves. And then a special event this coming Saturday, February 3rd, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, is another episode of my continuing interview series called Living on Borrowed Crime, where I talk to true crime content creators about the genre and their work. This week, I'm having on 3 guests. Talking about the Daryl Brooks case. I know this is a little bit different for Midnight's Edge to talk about, but it's going to be Matt Orchard.
That's why you come here to have fun, right? No.
Well, do something different. Okay, everything else I do is torture. Well, TEDx, Anyway, Matt Orchard, Dave's Lemonade, and Stay Awake. If you're at all a true crime fan or know somebody who is a true crime fan, at least in the sense of entertainment, I suppose. Check that out on Saturday the 3rd at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And Tom, everybody, thanks again for letting me on, and I appreciate being able to talk something goofy with you guys and having fun and having good memories.
Good night, Scribe.
Indeed. Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Yeah, take care.
Check
guys.
out Scribe's channel. Indeed.
Appreciate it. All right.
Take care. All right. Let's get back to 6's number 1. It is Super Friends from the Hall of Justice. As I was referring to, I think Spider-Man and his amazing friends was trying to compete with Super Friends.
I somehow thought that I would see this in syndication, but I could be wrong.
No, this was full-on Saturday morning for us here.
Yeah.
And then it became Challenge of the Super Friends when they brought in Darkseid. But anyway, sorry, 6, go ahead.
Sorry.
This was my all-time, far and away favorite cartoon. I loved Aquaman because he had that connection with animals. He could talk to them, and anybody can talk to animals, but he could communicate with them. It was an interaction, and I thought that was amazing. And I also thought he was cute. God. And I thought that Superman and Wonder Woman should get married. And I thought it would be so cool because I thought that they all had their own apartment in the Hall of Justice, that they lived there. And the Wonder Twins were super cool. And when Wonder Woman would fly in her invisible jet and you could see the outline, And I used to think, well, how is she floating in the air, even though you could see the airplane? It's just so funny how you think about what you thought about something when you were a child and you knew slightly less than you do as an adult. But this was Saturday for me. Super Friends. And then didn't the Wonder Twins have a monkey? Am I alone again? God damn it, you guys.
No, I'm here.
I don't remember the monkey's name. I can't remember his name, but yes, they did have a monkey.
Yeah. So, of course, loving animals. I thought that was super cute. Yeah. And that's it.
Anybody else? Oh, yeah. This is one of my earlier memories from being a kid, too, is just Super Friends. And like I said, eventually became a Challenge of the Super Friends, where they actually gave it a little bit fancier animation, a little darker animation. They took out the Wonder Twins. So I'm sure by this point you might have moved on, Six. I don't even know if you remember this. But like I said, then they brought in Darkseid and some of the other a little bit more. Lex Luthor had like the bionic suit and stuff like that, if I remember right. Yeah.
I remember seeing some of this as a kid and liking it. And I think when, for some reason in my mind, I thought it was syndicated, but maybe it was on Saturday morning. It was.
Well, they did show the older episodes in syndication when they switched over.
That's probably what happened. I think that I somehow caught episodes during a different time frame, so I didn't connect it to Saturday morning cartoons. But it was cool. It was a good show.
Depending on when you were born, it might have already moved on to the Challenge of Super Friends too. That's what I was saying before. And it was almost like, see, at that point, then it was like they were trying to compete with Spider-Man, so they upped the animation quality and made it a little darker, took some more storylines from the comics, etc. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, good pick, Six.
Thanks.
And we got let's see who's next. It's Price with Garfield and Friends.
Yeah, I really liked Garfield as a kid. Those books that they used to compile with all of his Jim Davis's newspaper, funny paper stuff. You know those books? I used to have a lot of them.
I've got a lot of them myself, yeah.
I don't know what happened to them. Maybe they're still in some attic somewhere, but I used to read those. I loved that. I've always, I don't know why, I really liked it. I liked the humor. I liked Cats, and I liked that he was lazy and didn't want to do anything. I liked all of it. And the specials for me were always highlights. The one that he's a pirate, the one at Christmas, the Thanksgiving. I loved all those things. So when they had sort of a weekly cartoon where I would see him every week, that was a huge highlight for me. The only catch is, and I have to say it, the only catch is that in addition to seeing him, I would have to see that talking pig and that farm, which with all due respect, I didn't mind those farm animals talking with the pig or Orson. I don't remember what the pig's name was.
Orson's farm. Yeah, you're right. You kind of had to. It was good, but I just wanted Garfield back on the screen.
Right. I mean, you tolerated it. It wasn't the worst thing that could ever happen, those farm animal things, but come on, were we kidding? We're watching Garfield. We don't need those animals in the middle. We just did. It was fine.
I didn't hate him that much, but yeah, it was kind of reminded me of Heathcliff, how you'd have to go to the junkyard cats for half the show. It's the same kind of thing. It was like, wait a minute. But you know what was fun about Garfield? Because I think that Garfield actually eventually got a whole hour. At one point, I can't remember if it had an hour, if it just started as a half hour and then eventually went to a half hour. But what I loved is in between the stories, like you were just saying, Price, because this was my number 4 for those who are maybe wondering. Excuse me. In between the stories, they would actually have little interstitial things where they would just redo the little comic strips. So there's a few of those that the comic strips that they just animated as little short minute, like 2-3 minute, or not even that long, like a minute long little things in between commercials and stuff once in a while. So that was cool too, on top of, like you said, because I was a big fan of the specials, and that was all they did is just took the people that were making the specials and had them make the show. So you have all the same voices, all the same animation, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Do you happen to know why they forced us to watch the farm animals in the middle? I always wondered about that.
I think that was just other characters that Jim Davis had that he wanted to promote.
Maybe they were seeing if any of them caught on and they could expand on it.
Maybe he had a separate comic
Jim Davis
strip.
Was really, that, and not only that, he was really big on merchandising, so he would have probably loved to have sold as many suction cup pigs as he did Garfield.
Nobody remembers those pigs between you and me. All anybody remembers is Garfield. Those,
I remember Sheldon and Orson and all those guys. I do remember them. I don't hate them, but you're not wrong. Like
if there was merchandising now, would you stop your day to buy merch now for Orson and Sheldon?
Probably not.
But there might be people out there who would.
I still have McDonald's cups where you see Garfield on those cups. I have a few of those.
Yeah, U.S. Acres, that's what it was called on the strip, yeah.
U.S. Acres, it was a strip. But do you know the cups I'm talking about? The glasses?
Yeah.
The McDonald's ones?
The ones that are toxic.
Right. I have two of the 4.
I think we all had those as kids.
But I didn't have Garfield ones. I just had the Star Wars ones.
You didn't have the Garfield ones?
Mm-mm.
I have one that he's on a seesaw and one I don't remember. I have them both. I have 2 of them at home.
There's one where it was like roller skating or skateboarding. I can't remember which.
And they're glass?
I'm actually holding
glass.
one.
Yeah.
I'm holding one in my hand right as we speak.
Yeah, go find. Actually, do a search in YouTube, like toxic Garfield glasses or McDonald's glasses 6, and you'll find a whole rabbit hole on this shit. They realized that all these years, those glasses that they were selling us had like lead in the paint and shit, I guess.
Wasn't the paint on the outside?
Yeah, but you'll have to. It's
you'll be fine.
Yeah, you have to read
a little lead.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal, I guess now. But
it had a little handle. It was like a coffee.
Yeah, like a coffee cup. Yeah. Yeah, Garfield and Friends was on my list as well, and I'm sure it sounds like we all kind of love this one. And this was like a no-brainer when it finally happened too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the movie.
Yeah.
I almost wish we just had this. This is where I almost wish they do the AI Lorenzo music voice, where we watched that trailer. Were you with us that night, 6, or the rest of you guys?
Yeah,
when we did that?
Yeah, I was there.
I prefer the original.
I think I was with you. Yeah. Oh yeah, you were complaining about the voice.
Yeah, because it's just Chris Pratt doing Chris Pratt. It's not Garfield. There's like a half a dozen people I could think are better, but it didn't matter. Somebody had found that AI trailer with the original voice, and I'm like, yes, just do that, because that's Garfield. Half of it's in the voice. He's always monotone.
You sound like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I can't do Garfield. It takes too much effort to do Garfield. Like that's the way he talks. So it's like,
yeah,
because it was Lorenzo Music's. It was just the way he talked, right? It was just, yeah. He always sounded like he was high. Anyway,
I just sent you a DM with a picture.
Oh, okay.
In the meat.
Yep, I had that one. Yeah, I had that one. Let me play it here. Or bring it up here, not play it.
I didn't even go get it. I was drinking from this cup.
Well, hopefully you don't die.
So what you're saying? It's toxic? No, I didn't even know. I've been drinking from.
Yeah, go do some research on it. It's like the material it was made out of too.
I love these cups. Now
I guess they discovered it during the
Shrek, been toxic for decades.
Shrek cup craze, and that goes all the
you're
way
still
back.
Okay now. You're
good. You have the private, the private chat up there.
Yeah. But all right, then we've got we did this one already because it was scribed, but it's in this list too, and I didn't want to fuck up my thing here to just do the one. So number 1 on CC's list, Batman, and you're talking about, of course, the 90s Batman.
Yeah, and I have to start by giving an honorable mention to the X-Men, and frankly, we could do a whole list of Marvel and DC from that era. But if I got to choose one, it's a no-brainer at this point. It's not just the best of the bunch necessarily. It's one of the best animated shows of all time. It was my introduction to Batman, being I was born in 1984. And it's just, I don't know what, how do you even talk? We could probably do a whole show talking about it, right? It's just, it nailed it. It elevated, it just elevated itself to a higher level. I guess I could put Flintstones on here, but no, it's got to be Batman. You know what I mean? It's Kevin Conroy. I'll take Mark Hamill's Joker, but just, I mean, where do I even go with that? Two-Face. I definitely liked Two-Face in this. I mean, as much as we could talk about Batman forever, and I which case, you know what I mean? But here they nailed that. Catwoman too. It's like I know that wasn't a huge part of the show, but I distinctly still, after all these years, the handling of Catwoman in the show was spectacular. I mean, there's very few low points here, you know. I'm gonna guess this is probably one of your XXXs on your list, Tom.
Tom.
Maybe Sadie got to him.
Tom died.
I was just anticipating Tom would have a lot to say about this because it's
right. He seemed rather quiet considering what a high-profile animated series this is. This was his moment to shine.
No, actually, this is not on my list.
Oh wow.
Because this was not on. I mean, for me, it was afternoons. It was on. I think it did go to Saturday mornings when they switched over to Batman and Robin.
That's fair.
But yeah, no, it was an afternoon cartoon for me, so I'll reserve it for that, basically. But no, it was an excellent representation of the characters, and it's considered by most to be the definitive version of Batman. So yeah.
I love Batman, but I don't really remember this on Saturday morning.
I've never seen this on Saturday morning, so I didn't put it on my list.
I think part of it is just growing up in Canada and being a 1984 birthday as well.
Right.
You know, I didn't always get things exactly the same way and in exactly the same time. For me, the Marvel and the DC shows were like, they were a Saturday morning thing, right?
Right.
It was kind of actually what got me up on Saturday. Like I was terrible at mornings. That's why I slept through school. But like these shows got me up, you know. Now I could be misremembering. Maybe they played them on Sunday mornings because we had a Sunday morning block. We had that too, but I'm pretty sure it was Saturday. It wasn't something I just caught after school. It was definitely not that.
Yeah, I don't remember how I got up on Saturday morning to watch cartoons because I remember getting up very, very early, but I don't even think I had an alarm clock back when I was watching cartoons. So maybe I just woke up naturally. I don't know.
Like my afternoon block was like Dragon Ball Z, Power Rangers. I was still like, it took me a long time to go home from school, so I had to tape them. But like those were my VHSers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never taped Batman. I was there for it, so it wasn't an afternoon thing for me.
Cool. Right. So who's next?
Me. Of course, it had to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What else did you expect it to be?
I had no idea.
No, I mean, I could have picked Elf or something like that, which is almost made my list too. But I mean, this was one of the only shows because, as I've said before, Ninja Turtles was kind of the end of my stuff I was into as a kid, right? So from there on out, Power Rangers, Pokemon, none of that stuff appealed to me. Ninja Turtles was one of the last shows that I watched on Saturday mornings. It was one of the only shows I still watched, and it was on late CBS morning. So as a teenager, I could still sleep in. About the time I get up, it was still on, or it was coming on. I could watch it, and I loved it. Still Ninja Turtles. There's a few issues I had later in the show, like that annoying guy. I can't remember his name now, but I've bitched about him before. But it also had some highlights. So yeah, no, this was just, to me, the epitome of all cartoons. I mean, if this was an afternoon cartoon show list, it would still wind up there, obviously. So it had to be here. What better place to put it than number one? And, you know, it's me.
I like turtles.
Could do a show about what our favorite season is of that.
Almost. Yeah, you could.
You know.
Like the 2003 show almost made my list. If it wasn't, I didn't watch that one as long as this one. I mean, this one was one that it was, like I said, the last part of my vestige of my childhood, or whatever you call it, or whatever they have. But no, it's a great show.
For me, it's an afternoon show, but it's definitely a great show.
The CBS did start, I think, in 1989 or 90. They started showing it on Saturdays.
Did you notice that the background photo that I picked has TMNT in it?
It has a lot of different cartoons in it.
Yeah, I had to really look for one with TMNT.
Oh, just to even have it in it? Oh.
Yeah. Well, that was enough of a montage.
No, I enjoyed it. Maybe we'll go off for a second here so everybody can.
We're back. I think. Are we back?
All right.
Yep.
So that's our list. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, we got some super chats.
Indeed.
Jason Webster says for an Australian $5. Foghorn Leghorn. That dog is as subtle as a hand grenade in a barrel of oatmeal.
I say that dog is about as subtle as a hand grenade in a barrel of oatmeal.
I love oatmeal.
Quite lumpy.
But that was not a Saturday morning.
Wow, Cocoa Pebbles and Lucky Charms and Captain Crunch are fighting it out right now. Holy shit.
Oh, wow.
You guys got to get in there and vote.
I voted for Lucky Charms.
Then we got Mr. Burger again, who sends in $5, says, I'm literally yelling at this goddamn monitor. This is the best show you've ever done, Tom. All of you are right, and all of you are totally wrong. Well, I do this every Sunday, actually, Mr. Burger, but unless you mean just this specific list.
I think this list is triggering him.
It might be. But we got to get you on here, Mr. Burger. That's a fact. That's a fact. Jeremy also thinks it's the best stream we've had in a long time and tips his hat. Thank you so much, Jeremy. We appreciate that.
That's nice. Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and it came together a lot better than I thought it was going to, honestly. Yeah. So, but this was good.
Indeed. So thank you so much, guys, and thank you, CC and Price, and of course check out Scribelight, and of course Six for being extra help tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and of course, any of the mods we got out there, I don't even know who we have out there. I've been so
Daryl, Mecha J, Daryl.
Daryl, right. my other brother, Daryl.
Daryl.
All right, Mecha J was here. Daryl. Yeah, I know that. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, we will see you next time, where I believe Snowdub will be our special guest.
What Price of Reason? What do you got coming up?
I've been trying to work on a video. I watched that stupid He-Man thing and was going to do a review, but I haven't had the time to finish it. Hopefully, I'll be able to put something together within the next day or so. Although Midnight Sedge has put some great videos on the topic, so
yeah, Andre put out his review.
So yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to try to finish that up. But other than that, I can't remember now. I think I'm on some different streams, but I can't remember what they are. So if you subscribe to my channel, I'll try to keep you posted.
Well, you do a couple on your channel, like the Quantum Leap one and stuff, and then you're on Midnight Edge After Dark from time to time. So yeah.
Right, but so there's that, the Midnight Side After Dark, and then there's the Quantum Leap one. But then I think that Nick said that he wanted me to be on Toxic Tuesday for some Crocodile Dundee thing. I thought I heard something. I don't know if he was serious or not, but I vaguely recall that I said yes to that, which was great. I think it's on Tuesday, and then on Monday,
right after our show, yeah.
And then on Monday, there's something else. I can't remember what movie it is, but there's some people I know that I was going to do a watch party thing. Like I said, if you go to my YouTube channel, I'll put like a post and I'll tell people where I'm going.
Sounds good. Brian Keith sends in $2. It's his best list so far. Hey Tom, say XXXXXXXXXX. Did I get enough X's? All right. Thank you, Brian. CC, what you got going on?
Well, we always do karaoke on Friday nights.
Bet
if you
your
want to
ass.
listen to us sing, yeah.
Oh
But-
yeah, and I go to that too.
That Tom and Price are usually both there. We're all singing, yeah. It's a lot of fun. We have fun.
Once in a blue moon, not only are Smurfs born, but Six shows up to karaoke too.
I don't do it anymore because
You
last
used
time
to.
I was on, there was literal 5-second lag.
Ugh,
So
I didn't
Yeah,
hear it.
I don't know.
Man, I'm sorry.
That's happened to me before, but I mean, you just get back on the horse and do it again. What can you do?
Unplug your internet, plug it back in, hope for the best.
Yeah, it's not like a career ender. We're just sitting around singing karaoke. It's not a big deal.
To you.
I know how she feels. But with
Yeah,
that,
so do I.
anything else we got to plug?
Midnight's Edge in the morning in about 12 and a half hours.
This is
And
true.
I'm going to head on over to Culture's channel. Tom, are you?
Yeah. Let's go derail his show.
We'll see. I might. He ain't got time for the list show, but he's got time for his show. Of course.
Yeah. We're going to
But,
go give him a hard time.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate it. I didn't do special credits, but we'll just play the regular opening again.